comes on the YouTube screen.
All right, we're live. We were waiting for Alex, but as usual, Alex is either late. I don't even know what's going on with him right now. He's not messaging. But yeah. So basically, this is just a debate between black pill ideology and then what I would say is like a holistic dating ideology. So yeah.
Well,
if you guys don't know me, I'm Austen Summers. I'm a dating coach, and I'm here with.
What's happened?
Wheat Waffles. You want to introduce yourself?
Yeah. I'm Wheat Waffles, and I believe predominantly in the BP ideology, which is that looks at the number one factor, that the most important factor for whether a woman is going to want to desire you or not. And all of this other stuff that RP talks about, like game, money, they're mostly just copes, and they don't generate any primal desire. Like they might be able to get you some attention, like some girls might want you if you've got like game or primal desire, but game often just leads to gesturing, and money leads to beta bucks at best. And even then, you might not get paid off. Like the only thing that leads to primal desire is your looks.
Okay, so I have an opening statement, and after my opening statement, I guess you can just go contention by contention with me, and then we'll just have like a back and forth after that. Does that sound good?
Cool. Well, how long is the opening statement? I might need to make some notes on it if you are.
Yeah, you should make some notes. It's probably going to be like 25 minutes.
Wait, what? You got an open statement that's 25 minutes?
Yeah.
You for real?
Yeah, this is a debate.
Well, this isn't really a debate if for the first 25 minutes of the stream, you're just going to be reading some massive paragraph.
No, that's what a debate is. You should have an opening statement, then there's a rebuttal to the opening statement, and then there's closing thoughts.
No, this is insane. 25 minutes of just listening to this essay that you prepared. If it's 25
it's just four contentions.
That must be 5,000 words approximately. Because I know how long my videos are, and I know how long they take to read a script. Like you've written some 5,000 word essay just for this debate.
I can simplify it if you don't want to.
Yeah,
go into the depths.
I'm trying to see if the live chat is open on the stream, but it's not working for me. But I swear to God, like, I can't be the only one who's thinking that a 25-minute essay is a bit superfluous for a debate. Like, that's not a debate.
I can go faster if you want. I don't.
I don't know. I'd rather you just stick to the main point, so you don't read anything from it. To be honest, like I think 25-minute essay, that's not a debate. That's a monologue.
It's not an essay. This is what a debate is. A debate is you have an opening statement, you have a rebuttal, and then you have closing arguments.
Okay, then how about you ask the stream? You do one of the poll things, because I know that's possible, and you say that is 25 minutes a bit excessive? Starting a debate, because I wasn't told this. Do the poll.
It literally says Wheat Waffles, Austen Summers debate. So I came prepared for a debate.
It doesn't say Austen Summers is going to read the first 25 minutes of the stream, just his opening statement. That's crazy. I've done like loads of debates.
You're stuck on the 25 minutes thing. If you want it to be shorter, I can shorten it. Do you want it to be shorter?
5 minutes max, and even that's pushing it.
Oh, okay, that's not really how debate works, though.
Well, I've done plenty of debates in the last 4 years that I've been uploading videos to YouTube. Not once have I came to a stream and the person has started off reading a 25-minute essay. That's not happened once. And I've done at least 20.
Well, it doesn't sound like you've been doing debates. It sounds more like you've been having discussions or podcasts.
Well,
hey, there we go. We got a moderator.
Actually, evidence from the YouTube title. That's what I've had when I've done these debates in the past. It would say Wheat Waffles debate versus Alex playing with fire, or debate with Destiny, or debate with somebody else. And not a single time that this has happened, there's been a 25-minute essay, a literal monologue.
You keep saying essay. You may not know what a debate is. A debate is you have an opening statement,
is an essay.
You have a rebuttal, you have closing statements.
Right, it's not
Okay, I'll
format.
just start because you've just spent 5 minutes talking about the fact that I'm prepared for this debate, and treating it like a debate is bad. So
I didn't realize it was that serious. How about first and foremost, you just do the
I'm
thing
just
that I
having a
say.
debate, dude.
Ask a
I like
poll
debate.
to
It's fun.
ask a poll. This will take 2 seconds. Ask a poll
I'm
to
not
the
going to
live
defer
chat.
to the hive mind.
Okay,
All right.
right.
So
I
I'll
can't
start.
see what the live chat is saying right now, but I'm guaranteed.
Okay, I'm just going to start. You spent 5 minutes bantering about nonsense. Okay, the first contention I have is the black pill is objectively false. The second one, if you want to take notes on this, the black pill is harmful to its followers and society. The third contention is the black pill is morally wrong. The fourth contention is that successful dating requires a holistic strategy. So I would define the black pill in the terms that I've researched. I've also heard you use these, is that it's an ideology that views genetic physical attractiveness as the sole determinant for success in dating and relationships. It views effort, self-improvement, personality changes as futile and of overcoming these perceived disadvantages, which are mainly looks disadvantages. It views the position as someone's position in life as predetermined and unchangeable. It's a combination of genetic determinism, existential nihilism, social defeatism, and philosophical fatalism combined into a palatable, easy to swallow pill. And then for my part, the successful dating requires a holistic strategy. I'd say successful dating is just dating that has an outcome that results in a long-term fulfilling relationship. And holistic strategy, I would call a comprehensive approach to dating that involves optimizing your looks, your game, your status, and your wealth. And yeah, the reason why I'm having this debate, I like the quote, "Sunlight is the best disinfectant." So I think if there's bad ideas, they should be brought out into the open and examined critically. And that's how society moves forward. So my first contention, the black pill is objectively false. Basically claiming that genetic looks is the sole determinant factor of dating success is not only false, it's reductionist, it's inconsistent with substantial scientific evidence on human attraction and mate choice over a wide range of disciplines. And that's not my opinion, that's just fact. So the first one is black pill is disproved by evolutionary psychology. So the claim that black pill has physical appearance as sole determinant of dating success is wrong according to science. If you ask the literal most cited psychologist other than Freud in human history, which is David Buss, he says, choosing a mate is a complex task, and so we do not expect to find simple answers to what women want. Women have 6 adaptive problems that they are solving for when they're looking for a mate. The first one is a mate who is able to invest, and each of these has evolved mate preferences. For the sake of brevity, I'm not going to go into the evolved mate preferences.
I can unmute myself. Right, I didn't realize that. I thought that you had powers to unmute to mute me. Right, I've just looked on my phone and I've read the comments. Bro, there's like 20 people that are saying that 25 minutes is crazy long. It's ridiculous, man.
Yeah, that's why I'm shortening
bully
it.
the stream. You can't just bully your way into the stream and say that you're gonna start off with a 25-minute essay. That's not a debate.
Okay, we've already established I'm going faster now, so it's not going to be 25 minutes.
How long is it going to be then? Because even the comments, I've read the comments.
10.
A bunch of people. Okay, even that's too long. Look at the comments from the time frame that they deem appropriate. People are saying 1 to 3 minutes is enough. 5 minutes is enough. Even 10
yeah, but
minutes
that's not how debate works. So I don't care what random people on a stream are.
How about instead of thinking about how a proper formal debate works,
look at the title of the thing: Wheat Waffles versus Austen Summers debate. Can I read my debate?
Take into consideration that you have an audience that has their demands, and if the majority of the audience has a preference,
I'm not going to defer to the majority of a mob of dumb people from Alex's audience. I don't care.
Well, as a content creator, you should
I'm getting at truth
what the audience
here, okay?
wants, and
that's what the point of the debate is.
No, the point
not
of the debate
deferring
is
to a mob.
To the audience who is interested in hearing us battle it out.
Yes, I'm talking about fucking interesting
Okay, guys,
things.
I'm stepping in. Sorry, shut up, both of you. Okay, I'm sorry I'm late. My kid had an accident, slipped on some
I think
ice.
I deserve a
So
little bit of time to speak, considering that we've started off with.
that's
Yes,
fine.
you're
Just let
going
me.
to
Hey,
have
now
an.
I'm
I'll
the
give
mod.
you
I'm
20
taking
minutes
over.
to speak
Austen,
afterwards.
shut up. We Waffles, shut up. You guys are listening to me. I'm moderating the debate now. Do you guys want to just start the fuck over? What do you want to do?
I'm not listening to a 10-minute, even 10-minute monologue. Like, that's just crazy. How about we simplify this? Because you said you got 4 points. I wrote them down. How about you just read off the first point, and then we can debate that for like 20 minutes or whatever it takes, and then you just go on to
Okay.
the second point. Because
Yeah,
no
if
one
you want
wants
to go
to
point
start
by
off the
point, that's fine.
stream. No one wants to start the stream. You reading off a 10-minute, let alone a 25-minute monologue. That's just crazy.
Yeah, if you don't want it to be a debate and you want it to be more of a discussion, then that's fine. We can do that.
That's exactly what I want to be. And change the title for all I care. If that's
Okay.
like your serious concern, the fact that it says debate in the title, and that means we
Okay,
can't.
so let's go. The
We
first
can't
point I
not have
have
you
is the
speak with
black
this
pill is
essay.
disproved by evolutionary psychology. And there's 6 adaptive mate problems, or 6 adaptive problems that women are solving for when selecting a mate. First one's a mate that's able to invest. The second is a mate who is willing to invest. The third is a mate who is willing to or able to physically protect her and her children. The fourth is a mate who shows good parenting skills. The fifth is selecting a mate who is compatible. And the sixth is selecting a mate who is healthy. So,
Okay, where does it mention anything about genetics there?
No, it does. So the evolved mate preferences under all those, some of them looks is a determining factor in that. So, for example, selecting a mate who is healthy, part of that health comes from your genetics, right? If you
It's going to be
have
partly genetic, partly environmental.
correct, and then, but the problem is saying that it's solely based on looks would be false because there's other things that women are looking for in long-term dating, which includes a man's ambition, his industriousness, financial prospects, social status, social skills. And just because he's able to invest doesn't mean he's willing to invest. So willing to invest comes from, love and commitment cues, dependability, stability, positive interactions with other people, children, animals, and basically just showing that you care about the girl, and then the third one is selecting a mate who's able to physically protect her and her children. So the evolved mate preferences for that are size, muscularity and height, bravery, and athletic ability. So size, your muscularity and height is what, 86% determined by your genetics. The other 14% is from your environmental factors. And then also muscularity can be like almost no one, I'm sure you agree, would meeting their muscular like genetic potential. Most people are not at that. Bravery is not looks, and athletic ability. I play ultimate frisbee, and I play with some really, some people aren't super attractive and they're like insanely athletic. But what is your take on all this? Because
Well,
yeah.
the two initial thoughts that I had that came to mind is, oftentimes you do get like these studies that come out and they look at, based on like evolution, what women would have went after and what traits in men they would have chased and wanted to start families with these types of guys. However, what I mainly want to say is that in the modern day things have changed, and the first point that I had is, first of all, what's relevant today, not what's relevant 10,000 years ago in caveman days, what's relevant nowadays. And I think nowadays, when women have their own money, they have mum and dad's house to live in. They don't need to marry a guy for the sake of marrying a guy so they can live in his house. Because like even 50 years ago, women made a lot less money compared to men, and a lot of women didn't even have jobs. They weren't allowed them. But nowadays, when women are making near enough the same as men, and we live in a very, very economically developed world, and even with their jobs, they can still have the permission to live in their mum and dad's home until age 30. There's no urgency or desire to marry a guy for the sake of his money and his resources. At best, she's going to pie that off until she's 30, and then mum and dad's getting sick and tired of her being in the house. So then she might look for the beta guy who has just earned money, got a good degree for the last 10 years in his 20s, and now she'll pick him from the depths. But all throughout her 20s, she's got no concern for the guy's money. She doesn't care about it. And even if you ask girls who are 18, 19, 20, 21, and I've done this hundreds of times, ask these girls, do you care about money? I promise they will say no. They don't care about a man's resources. What women care about nowadays is, first and foremost, nothing. They're just not interested in guys, full stop. Most of them want to stay single nowadays if they're young. And if she's not in a relationship, there's a very strong chance she just wants to stay single. And secondly, the thing that she might be interested in is a man's looks. So if she's 18, 19, 20, she doesn't need money because she's got her own job or she's got mum and dad's money to look after it. She doesn't necessarily need a man either because she's got friends, she's got everything catered for. However, maybe she's got a higher drive for action. Maybe she still wants a relationship just because she think it'll be fun. Maybe she still wants some saucy fun times from time to time with an attractive guy. And who do you think she's going to be picking if she's got 100 options, 100 different matches on a dating app out of those guys? Obviously, it's going to be the best looking guy because that's who she has primal desire for. It's not going to be Tiny Tim just because he has a good salary. It's going to be the guy who's handsome and good looking. That is who the 18, 20-year-olds, if they want a guy, which many of them don't, are chasing.
Yeah, I would just say that it basically genes change about 1% over 10,000 years. So for all intents and purposes, the same things that people would be attracted to back then are the same things that we're attracted to now. I also have also seen tons of studies and I'm not, obviously keep in mind, my channel isn't like just get rich and girls like you. I obviously am not a huge proponent of that. And I think it's like a very moderate to low impact in success with girls. But yeah, there still is an effect of that. Like, women would prefer, if you give them an option, they would prefer the richer guy. And I think the whole point of this is that there are a wide range of things that women are looking for when they're selecting a mate. So you framed a lot of this in like short-term hookups and things in a girl's 20s. Some girls get married in their 20s, dude. Some girls get into very long-term relationships
later and
in their
later.
20s.
Average age of marriage in most Western countries nowadays is 30, which highlights my point that most women nowadays, they just want to stay single in their late teens and 20s.
But this whole thing is about selecting a mate, not like, hey, I'm just playing around, having fun. Like, there's girls that I've hooked up with where I'm like, maybe they're hot or something, but I'm not like thrilled with who they are. I'm not thinking about making them a girlfriend, because they lack the long-term mate qualities that I'm looking for. So the whole thing that I read here is about selecting a mate, not just, a short-term hookup.
When you say selecting a mate, you're talking about long-term like prospects, marriage relationship.
Yeah, long-term pair bonding.
Okay. Well, this is the problem that in the West, because of these factors, because women can live in mum and dad's home until 30 and there's no urgency, it means that even in the best case scenario for your long-term prospect, chances are like you're not going to get married yourself as a guy until you're in your 30s anyway. Because my favorite term that me and my friend use all of the time nowadays is mentality max. We use that every single day. And mentality max basically means how much desire a woman has for either short-term or long-term. So and we break it down into two types. So there's micro MM, so micro mentality max, and there's macro MM, macro mentality max. And if a woman's high micro MM, that's when she's got high desire for short-term, like in the moment, she's really, really turned on. She wants some spicy fun times. I've met plenty of women who are this type, and it leads to a short-term occasion. There's ways of going about to catch those women when they're in those moments. A lot of it is just exposure maxing. And as for the women who are high macro MM, they are very, very, very far and few between for the girls that are my age. Girls under 25, very, very few of them are high macro MM. They just want to stay single. At best, that you might catch them on an occasion or two when they're high micro MM. But for the majority of girls who are 18 to 24, they're just low macro MM. You're not going to be able to get them for a relationship or be on a path to a marriage until they're at least past the age of 26.
I mean, yeah, you can. the thing is with the strength of evidence, you're saying micro mm, macro mm, exposure max. Like these are all interesting hypotheses. The thing is, you have to put them to the test, and that's like the test of good science. I would defer myself. I would defer to the strength of evidence of the most esteemed evolutionary psychologist of all time. And one
Okay.
other thing,
Can
I
can I
think
give
just for
some
the
evidence
sake
then?
of this
Can I
debate
highlight
for
some evidence?
longevity in it,
Can I highlight
I
some
think
evidence? So,
if people find this in the
Western
future, it'd be best to just use like English words instead of like slang and stuff.
I think that these terms will eventually become mainstream because I'm going to popularize them. I've already done that to some degree for loads of different terms. Like a load of the terms that you see being tossed around in the looks max community on TikTok. I was the one who started all of that. Like I've popularized terms before, and
Yeah,
I can
but as an
popularize them
English
again.
person yourself,
And
don't you have a desire to like make the English language function properly?
I don't think this is relevant to debate, but if we just
Okay,
use
you're
my
right.
language
Okay,
for now.
my next
So,
point.
can I just say one more thing on this point?
Yeah.
So, because you asked for evidence, and you said that you've got evidence. Well, I've got evidence too. So, it's shown that the richer a country becomes, the more educated a country becomes, the more independent women become, then the average age of marriage increases. That's shown in pretty much every Western nation, and even developing ones. The
Yeah,
average
and
age of
access
marriage
to birth
increases,
control.
and the average number of women that get married ends up decreasing too. And it's predicted out of Gen Z in the UK that 40% of women will never be married. They will just stay single for their whole lives. And furthermore, the second piece of evidence is even within these nations, the women that are more educated are less likely to get married and delay marriage even further. So women with PhDs, they delay marriage and get married less at a way higher rate compared to women that only just got past high school and got regular jobs. And it's all because of the more independent and educated women become, it decreases their MM, especially the macro MM. And even in the best case scenario, many of these women who get PhDs and focus on their career, at best case scenario, they will end up getting married in their 30s. But throughout the time that they are studying and getting their career, which is most of their late teens and 20s, they're just choosing to stay single. They don't have an interest in guys. They don't need a guy in their life. They just want to stay single.
Okay. And yeah, that's an interesting hypothesis, but you have to put it to the test and you have to test it. You have to get more evidence for it. And then,
Well,
maybe
that
if
is
it is
evidence
true,
there.
then it'll eventually become
I
a
just
theory.
gave the evidence. I just gave the evidence.
Okay. Well, that's
I can't remember the exact percentages off the top of my head, but I know for a fact that Western countries have lower marriage rates and delayed marriage.
yeah, but
And within
there's
these nations, the women who are more educated and focus on careers have lower marriage rates and delay marriage more. That
yeah,
is
but the
evident
thing with
for you. I can't
science
remember
is
the
you have
exact
to look at
percentages.
like what are potential other confounding factors, what are the, the things that trend with it, what are the other correlates? Like just because marriage
No,
rates are going down, me personally, I don't
correlated.
have an insane desire to get married because I don't see it as the only way to have a great life, to have a great family, to have a great relationship. And the general idea of marriage has been like tarnished largely in the
No, it's
West.
been replaced. It's not been tarnished. It's been replaced because nowadays women, they in the Western countries, especially if they pursue education and career, that juxtaposes their desire to get married. They've got too much stuff going on in their life. They've got bigger fish to fry. They aren't interested in starting the relationship with a man. They just want to stay single because they are more interested
They
in
definitely
their
are,
career and
dude.
studies.
I
And look, even
I
in my
actually
personal experience, I
I
know this
just
is
went
true.
to a
Because look, can I just finish this point? Because I know that the scientific evidence shows this and the data shows this. I've just highlighted that. But even in my own life, I could show you countless screenshots, countless, where a woman has said, and some of these women I've even been with, some of them I was literally their first time. And then they've sent me a message several weeks or a couple months afterwards and said, hey, I'm no longer interested in pursuing this anymore because I've got too much stuff going on. I'm wanting to concentrate on other aspects of life, namely my studies, blah, blah, blah. I could show you those screenshots. I could show you those texts. So what I'm trying to highlight is that
No,
the
you're right. But the
evidence,
thing is,
the
eventually
data
they
shows that.
come
The
back
studies
around.
highlighting this, and then my own experience shows that this is true as well.
Yeah, but the eventually they come back around. They realize what's important. It's not important to pursue an endless career that, sure, it can provide some measure of purpose in your life. But dude, I've talked to a lot of older women too. I actually just went to like a self-development event. The most common theme I heard from women at this event where they focus so much on their career, their sense of significance in their early 20s, and that now that they're older, they're like, fuck. Like it was all kind of like a big lie, which I'm sure you kind of agree with that too. It's
Well, yeah,
like,
that's true. No, so it's true that the average macro does increase as women get older. The average macro of a woman who's 18, 19, 20, it's like a 3 out of 10. They're not interested in guys. They want to stay single. Maybe they'll have high micro from time to time, which is where they have some spicy adventures with a handsome guy. But even that's rare. A lot of women don't engage in that. Most of them just want to stay single. But as for women having high macro when they're in their late teens and early 20s, is very, very low nowadays. It used to be very, very high because the average age of marriage 50 years ago was like 21, 22. The women got married off. The family married them off when they was in their early 20s at the latest. But nowadays, the women have low macro when they're young, and they focus on other things such as their career and education and all of that fun stuff. Sometimes traveling, sometimes dopamine pursuits. And then you're right that as they get older, like closer towards 30, their macro does increase, and that's where you see a huge swathe of women all of a sudden have this burning desire to get married, and a lot of that is driven by beta bucks, which I don't think is a viable strategy because it's non-primal. But if we just fixate on the idea that women's macro does increase as they go towards their 30s, even despite that, an increasing number of them never end up finding someone. So it used to be a very, very small percentage of women would go their whole life without getting married. But nowadays, an increasing number, and from Gen Z, it's predicted that 40% of women will never get married. They will stay single forever. Like that's so. Even though macro does increase, women get towards 30, lots of those women, even though their macro increases, they won't find anyone because they don't like the options.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy, and also the fertility rates too, like in South Korea and stuff like that. It's like
It is.
societal collapse actually is like a
What do you
real
notice about South
possibility in the
Korea?
future.
South Korea
What?
has some of the highest education rates, some of the most career-driven rates, not just among men, but the women as well. They are extremely career and education-driven. And what do you see? Marriage rates and education rates are some of the lowest literally the lowest in the world. It's because when women pursue education and all this other stuff in their life, career, then it juxtaposes, not always, but the vast majority of the time, it juxtaposes their desire for marriage and a family.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. I mean, that is true. And the other thing, it's like the two biggest factors for decreasing the birth rate are like access to contraceptive, birth control, stuff like that. And then, female education. But yeah, I'll let you have the last word on that. And I want to move on to the next thing. So
Well, I
my
think I
next
said
sub point.
already everything that I had to say. But tying it in with the BP, like what I've noticed is that as we've discussed, like the macro of most girls in their late teens, early 20s is very, very, very low. And it might increase as they get towards 30. But then a big tripe that many people in the BP community is say like, so the women, they don't want relationships or marriages anymore when they're at those younger ages, but they are plates for Chad. They are going to Chad's house, like, multiple times per week, and Chad is spinning all of these plates. That's not really true. It is true to some degree, because you do have some women who are high micro in their late teens and early 20s. And I've seen them. I've met them. And, I know that it does happen to some degree. And it's certainly not happening with the sub 5 guys. It's only happening if you're at least like 6 out of 10, at the absolute minimum 5 out of 10 or above. If you're not at least at that level, it's not happening. Maybe ever so slightly once in a blue moon, but for the most part, it is strictly 5s, more realistically 6s and ups that are getting those opportunities for the high micro girls in their late teens and early 20s. But even then, most girls aren't engaged in that. Most girls aren't engaged in the high micro activities that so many BPers believe.
I'm kind of curious to like when I was like looking into all this stuff. I'm curious why you often frame things as like, certain guys are getting tons and tons of sex, and then it's like over for the other ones. Wouldn't it be more like a gradient?
Well, it is a
Does that
gradient.
make
Yeah,
sense?
of course. Yeah, of course. And there's no doubt in my mind that on average, the eights, like the Chads, are getting a lot more compared to the sevens. The sevens are getting more than the sixes. The sixes are getting more than the fives. And if you're below a five, you're pretty much getting nothing. If you're a three, you literally are getting nothing, especially in your late teens, early 20s. It's just not happening because you're just out of the dating pool.
I'm gonna put a pin in this. I just want to get over the first part, the objective stuff, and then I want to get more to like the fun dating stuff afterward. But yeah, I do want to go into that. My next point is that black pill is disproven by biology. So in biology, closely related species often share common patterns. So like, humans are closely related to chimpanzees, bonobos, etc. And it kind of gives us insight into like how our own species works by observing others as well. So I did a lot of research on this. There's 6,400 species of mammals, and there's not a single species that exclusively relies on physical appearance to determine mating success. There's always some kind of aspect of dominance, resource acquisition, social status, and behavioral displays that are consistent across the mammalian class, basically. The evidence we have from mammals, because females invest a lot in pregnancy, nursing, and prolonged care, that high investment means that females are looking for men that can protect them during that time, who are high social status, so they get the resources flowing to the top, that they have certain behavioral traits, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to go too far because I don't want to, and people's attention's not that good. So the evidence we have from primates, which includes humans, is that mate selection becomes even more multifaceted than just mammals in general. And it's focused more on complex social cues of status. And the two most related species to chimpanzees, like I said, to humans are chimpanzees and bonobos. Chimpanzees prefer high-ranking males that show dominance, share resources, and there's kind of like socially adept. The bonobos, cooperative and affiliative males, are more attractive than ones that are just more dominant and aggressive, which is very interesting as well. And then for paternal investment. So the paternal investment means like the father is investing. In species with shared parenting, like wolves, beavers, humans, females prioritize males that demonstrate parenting ability or resource provisioning. And this is very key. The more paternal investment that a species has, the more that the mating strategies and the courtship rituals involve evaluating traits like caregiving ability and willingness, resource provision, emotional stability, and long-term commitment indicators. So further research on this, there's 505 primate species. Humans rank number 1 for paternal investment out of those. And out of the 2.2 million species on Earth, humans rank in the top 15. And basically all of this points to the fact that humans, female humans, aka women, place a huge emphasis on these behavioral cues for determining who they're going to mate with. And obviously you can point to exceptions to this, but I think that this is generally the rule.
Not anymore. Not anymore. Not in the modern day. Not in the modern day. Circumstances have changed.
So yeah, I'm gonna just go into your rebuttal.
So pretty much what it comes down to, as you've described, is that there's two main factors that women will desire when choosing a mate. It's going to be his genetics and his providership. And obviously the woman wants good genetics because that's going to lead to the strongest, best looking babies, the tallest babies, the most capable babies, and most naturally gifted, most intelligent babies. She wants that. But she might also want the resources because then when the babies are born, then it means that she can provide the best upbringing possible for them. However, nowadays, the paternal aspects of it are pretty much being driven into the ground. They don't need that anymore. And you see so much evidence for this. Here's just one example. So, the women that pursue careers and money and education the most, the ones who, have the most wealth by their early to mid 30s, they don't even bother trying to chase a man. I'm talking about like the top, 5 to 1% here of earners, female earners, the ones who are so well off financially. And for these women, they don't even need to worry about marrying a guy for paternal reasons. And do you know what these women do? In increasing numbers, more of them are just resorting to IVF. More of them are resorting to IVF because they've got so much money as it is, they can pretty much pay for the babies that end up being born, and they can pay for the best quality genetics as well. So they don't even need to be in a marriage with some guy to pay the money to raise the children, and they certainly don't need his genetics to give birth to the children either. She can pay for all of that herself because she's got the money, and these are the most affluent female individuals. They can pay for everything on their own accord.
I think the issue with that is
this is the main point. That when they pay for the genetics, the genetic material that gets injected to their own eggs, who do you think they are going for? Certainly ain't going for 5'6" unattractive guy. They are choosing the 6 foot in shape chads. That's who you can look at the sperm bank data. Most sperm banks don't even allow you to donate if you're below 5'10" in height. Most women, they are choosing the guys to donate their sperm based on if they're tall, which is a very, very strong indicator that they are wanting the most desirable men for their genetics. And they can pay for that.
Yeah, but the thing you're saying that they don't need it. That's not the correct framing of the argument.
They don't need it and they don't want it.
99% of all births that happen in the US, at least in the US, are from a man inseminating a woman, not from IVF.
That's true, but I'm highlighting
exceptions don't disprove the rule.
That's a good point. However, extremes can often tell you a good indicator of what's going on. And what you'll see at the other end of the extreme is for women that are single mothers, for women that are in very, very desperate financial situations. Who are they marrying? They're marrying often the bald guys, the guys who are overweight, the guys who are short. I even know some bald, short, unattractive guys in my own life, and they're in their mid-30s, and they specifically try to chase single mothers. And these guys have got money themselves, and they know, if I chase some desperate single mother who's got no money, then if I chase her, then I'll be able to, use my money as leverage. There's a higher chance that she'll desire me because she's got no other
definitely
option.
one strategy, I guess.
Women with money, they don't need that. They don't need to resort to dating the ugly guy with money. They can, because they've got their own money to pay for their own children. So who are they going to chase? They're going to chase the guys.
One counterpoint to that would be that in the point of paternal investment isn't just resources. It's not just money. It's also that the man that you choose can like transfer status onto his son. The man can train his son. The man can be there for his son. Like there's a lot of roles that a father plays, and I think that's why women overwhelmingly, 99% of women are going to go for that option. Now, if they're saying like, if they focus on their career, they're 37, that window's closing, and they're going to go to a sperm bank, of course, dude, get the best genetics you can. Like, why the fuck not? Because there's no other factors there. It's not like the sperm they get out of a tube. One sperm is going to be high status and like, really caring father. It's like, it's a tube, So I get your point, which is that women are going to choose the best they can in that environment. But my point still stands that women are looking for men that show potential good fathering skills that will have paternal investment, that will give paternal investment.
Not in the
you keep saying not anymore, but
99%
means it's still
decreasing.
happening.
Right. So money is the biggest indicator in the modern age to signify resources, and it is shifting. And the more developed a country becomes, it shifts more away from those resources and money, and it shifts more towards beauty and genetics. and that's who women chase. And it makes sense because they've got money themselves. They've got mummy and daddy's money. They've got their own career. They've got their own job. They don't need some man's money to provide for that. And if you want to beat around the bush about the semantics of saying money and not resources, we all know it's the same thing. And here's more evidence for you.
No, I get it. I get it. I don't need more evidence.
Let me say this.
Resources is a small part of what a father plays.
No. It's the main part. It's the main part of paternal investment. If you ask people what is the main part of paternal investment, it's the financial responsibility and obligation to raise the children. You can talk about, caring, fathership qualities, blah blah blah, but the main thing is being able to.
Then why do the children of single mothers, even rich single mothers, turn out poorly?
Say that one more time.
Why do the children that come from single mothers, why do they tend to turn out more poorly than when there's two parents in the household?
I haven't seen the data for that. As far as my knowledge of the data of children raised from single mothers is that the children do end up, worse, if you just want to put it simply. So they, pass high school at a lower rate. They're more likely to commit crimes and end up in jail, and more likely to become a single mother themselves when they grow up. I don't know if disparities depending on the income level of the single mother. I don't know if that's true.
I think minimizing the role of a father down to just providing financial resources is trivializing it. But fathers play a role in the emotional development of their kids, guiding them, training them, teaching them sports, bringing them on cool adventures, giving discipline when needed.
Yes, of course, those aspects are relevant, but I would still argue that the main aspect is the financial providership. And that's especially true historically when resources were extremely scarce. It's very important that, if you can't have food, because it's such a scarce resource, that you find a man who can provide that for the family. Anyway, I wanted to say this data. So if you look at a world map, if you look at the average age gap of marriages based on the country, you'll see a very, very interesting trend. That in third world nations, the least developed places, the age gaps are the most significant. It's women who are 18, 19, 20 getting married off to some 30-year-old man, some 32-year-old guy. Now, why are they getting married off to these guys who were in their 30s? It's because they've had more time to accumulate wealth and resources. And, there's going to be an element of arrangements involved as well, because that's quite common practice in third world nations. But a lot of it is, because the family has identified the man as having resources and being able to have the capabilities to provide for the woman and her future babies, when they start the family. But in the developed world, you don't see that. You see narrowing age differences. And it's because if you ask women who are 18 to 22 what age of guys they find the most attractive, and there's even evidence for this, that
3 to 4 years older,
either a 22-year-old man or a 35-year-old man, I promise the vast majority of those girls are going to say they prefer the 22-year-old looking man. And it's because, and she doesn't need to marry that 35-year-old man anymore for the money. She would prefer to date the 22-year-old man because he has the beauty. It's all about beauty in the modern day. Money and all of this other stuff is becoming less and less relevant. And there's other reasons for this that I can get into later as well. But the main point is that beauty is increasing, and it increases more as a country develops. And all of the other factors, personality, money, whatever you want to say, they're all going down in place of beauty.
Okay, that's certainly an assertion, and later we can get into the reasons why you think that. So I guess the dropped parts of my argument were that women, and literally any species that has high paternal investment, women are going to screen for qualities other than looks. And there's other roles of a father other than financial or resource provisioning. There's caregiving. There's emotional stability. There's other things that men provide to raising kids other than financial and resource bringing. My next point is that genetic determinism is false. interactionism is the current scientific consensus. I don't really want to go too deep in this. I think you probably already get this. Like the whole concept of genetic determinism, that your looks, even just like, let's just say looks, not even other parts of your genetics. The idea that your looks are determined by your genetic makeup, leaving no room for environmental factors or personal effort to alter those outcomes, is false.
I didn't say that.
So
I didn't say
what?
that there's no room. Those are words.
No,
put in
no,
my
no,
mouth.
no, no, no. That's the idea. I'm saying you probably
No,
already get
that's
this.
not the idea. No, my idea is that it's mostly about genetics, but there is some room for environmental determinism. And I would say the main factor that is environmental
There's some room for what?
is for environmental
Yeah.
factors. And I would say the main factor that is environmental is exposure. But even then, environmental just points back to the beauty and genetics again, because in my experience, like I've approached a lot of girls. I've had more exposure than pretty much any guy that I know, and I've had more exposure probably than the average guy would get in 5 lifetimes, let alone 1. But I've had more exposure than most guys would get in 5 lifetimes. And what I've noticed is that when I've increased my exposure, it's not been a matter of like my superior game and my superior social skills would help me get the results. And when my game is off, my game is bad, then I don't get results. No, it doesn't work like that. What I've often found is that by increasing my exposure, I find the girls who really, really find me attractive and really like my looks, and they have a subjective preference for my appearance. And I could tell
Yeah, it's part of
anecdotes
game.
till the
Part of
cows come
game
home.
is the reps that you put in,
Yes, and
whether it's
it's
online
not
or in person.
about. I would. That's not game though. That's just exposure.
That is
Like when
part of
people
game.
talk about game, no.
I've
No,
been
when people
teaching
talk
game
about
for
game,
11 years, bro. I know
when people talk
that
about game,
putting in
but
reps
I
is
think
part
you
of
can
game.
separate game and exposure. Because game, in most contexts, they're talking about how good your social skills are, how good your conversion rate is. I'd say game is more about like, the
That's part of
conversion
it.
rate, like your influence on the conversion rate. Meanwhile, exposure is just increasing your reps. Like your game can stay the same, but
Your
you can have 3
exposure is part
times
of your
as
game
much exposure.
strategy. Like
Yeah, it's part of your game
we used to do this
strategy,
thing
but it's
where
different from
we'd
game.
run Instagram ads. So we'd literally just promote our own Instagram profiles using ads.
Then that's just
And
exposure
yeah,
maxing.
when I spend $5 and 200 girls are looking at my profile,
That's
at
just
least
exposure
like,
maxing. That's not
yeah,
game.
yeah.
That's just exposure
But
maxing.
please don't butcher the English language anymore. It's, yes, increasing your exposure using Instagram ads you cast a very wide net. They call this the broadcast strategy. And yes, you can find those girls that are more interested in you. And I do agree that's a very good aspect of game. And it's part of increasing your repetitions that you can get out there. It's like using marketing essentially for putting yourself out there. And it's great.
It is. And exposure maxing has worked really good for me because even when my game is bad or I'm just not really that interested, and I'm putting in like no effort, then a girl would still find me really, really attractive because she was giving me S tier choosing signals and she really liked my looks based on her subjective beauty preferences. Like, if you approach 20 girls, 10 of them are just going to think that you're a 3 or a 4. They're never going to consider you. You can have the best game in the world. You can have the best sets in the world with those girls. But if they think that you're a 3 or a 4, you're not going to be able to change anything. But then there might be 1 or 2 out of those 20 girls that thinks that you're a 6 or 7 or an 8. And you might actually be able to get those girls. And you'd be surprised. And I'm sure you would know this yourself. You would be surprised just how mediocre your game can be with these particular girls that pretty much think you're a Chad, and you still get the success with them. Because you oftentimes just find that it's having a normal conversation. You're not saying anything special or doing anything miraculous. You're not telling, the world's best jokes and you suddenly become the world's best comedian. No, you just have a normal conversation and it still works with those girls. And likewise, there's other times where you have the best game possible, but because a girl thought that you were mediocre looking, like a 4.5 or 5, then your game doesn't work. Your game doesn't pay off, even though you know for a fact that you was really, really on the ball that day. Like, have you experienced
So
that?
I would agree in general to what you said, and I like the same things apply, right? If you're doing it in person or online, it's like, yeah, if you cast a pretty wide net and you meet a lot of different girls, there's going to be some that are more receptive and some that are less receptive. The thing that I would disagree with you on is I have had interactions where I come in, maybe it's just social context, maybe it's just like asking something, talking to someone sits next to me on an airplane or a bus or something. And, the girls are not super thrilled. They're not like jumping off they're not jumping in the air when I, come and approach. But over time, when I build up, some more attraction based on, my game, which social skills, dominance, charisma, being a sexual authority, all these type of things, that increases the attraction, and that attraction kind of raises. So an old school game concept is that attraction is more like a volume knob. And that's been my experience, is like most girls that I've talked to in my life, and I've slept with hundreds of them, it's been, they're open to the idea of meeting me. They're not thrilled. They're not like ecstatic. Oh my God. They're just like, oh, hey, what's up? How's it going? And then from there, the attraction builds over time using like seduction. And then I end up sleeping with them. And then once you sleep with a girl, it's the highest form of investment for her, and you can take it where you want.
No, I don't. It's not been my experience. It might have been yours, but I don't think you would even have attempted the things that I'm about to suggest. So you might not even know what I'm saying is true, and you might still believe what you're saying is true, but it might not be, because you've never tested this method. Because how would you know if your game is even effective?
Tested what method? You said this method.
So my method, I call it aggression maxing. I don't believe in game. There's no such thing as game. I call it aggression maxing. I saw you shaking your head there.
Dude, please use English. Just use English. You're English, bro.
Right. So what if I told you that I could show you countless screenshots, countless examples of where I've shown zero game, not tried anything to be funny, humorous, whatever. I've just straight up aggression max and just been like,
I don't know what aggression max is. I do agree with you. There's sometimes I don't even fucking try, dude, and I get laid.
Yeah, like, exactly. Okay, no, then let me highlight this. So what I'm trying to pinpoint is that I see a lot of these PUAs that are so obsessed with the idea of having the best game and proving that their game is better than anyone else's, that they would spend 20 minutes juggling 9 balls at a time in one set, like trying to prove that their game is the best. And then at the end of it, they get the success. A lot of the times they don't, because they were just gesturing the whole time. But very occasionally they get the success. And then at the end of the video, they're like, see, guys, my game was so awesome there, and that's why I got the girl. Okay, but how do you know that it was your game? How do you know that if you didn't ask her in the first 30 seconds for her number or for a date, that she wouldn't have said yes?
I guess the way you would know is if you have
from a no to a yes. Because I could show you so many screenshots, so many examples of myself where I've just aggression maxed the whole thing. And
what is aggression max?
Aggression max is that you don't waste any time gesturing. So I think at any one point in time...
Please, dude, English. Translate that to the English language that people will be speaking.
So gesturing is what you would probably describe as game. It's like, trying to be funny, trying to show your value, trying to...
dude, what?
Make her attracted to her. Make her attracted
Trying to be funny is not being funny.
Okay, no, but you know what I'm trying to say.
I think what you're trying to say, there's a term that we call like too gamey. It's like when it's just a little bit socially uncalibrated. So doing things that are socially uncalibrated and trying too hard to get the girl.
Most of them are doing that.
Yeah. Is that what you're getting at?
Doing that as well. So you were either gesturing, which is trying to communicate value, like whichever way you want to put it. I just say it's gesturing, which means that you're trying to be funny. And
can we just pause? I want to point that out. That thing. So that would, maybe some people that you've talked to, like that's their mindset, is like, the girl's higher value than me, so now I have to do all these things to make up this gap, and like I have to start juggling and gesturing or whatever terms you're using to make that up, and I have to try super hard. The way that I think about it is like, it's just human expression. If you're having a good time yourself, you're feeling good, you're expressing yourself, the girl's having fun with it, you're just having like a nice human interaction, like that actually is the optimal game. It's not like trying too hard. Trying too hard, like the implicit assumption of trying too hard, or what you call gesturing, is that you're being fucking low value and socially inept.
No, it's the opposite. Being aggressive is a communication of high value. And the point you just mentioned about like how it's about expression and having a good time with a woman. How do you even know that she's having a good time though? You might read her body language and think like, oh, you know, she's
Human
clearly
social
interested in
cues.
standing here, you know. But how would you actually know if she wants to be there in the first place? And what I've often seen a lot of PUAs, which I think is a complete waste of time, is that they just throw those social cues out the window and think, oh, but if I just employ this game and if I run this game, then I'm going to be able to turn this horrible interaction into the best interaction possible. It never works like that because she's already decided no. And these PUAs,
I
could
would
show
say
you the
it
videos.
can
I
work,
could
but
show you
it's not
TikToks.
worth the effort.
Would you do such a thing like that if a woman was showing obvious signs?
Dude,
that
I've
she
I've
wasn't
approached
interested?
girls who are crying and like turned it around and like put them in a good state and like pulled and banged. Like I've
I'm not
done
talking
crazy
about
shit.
that.
If you ever watch my YouTube channel, you'll see me do fucking
That's
insane
not what I
shit.
said. I said if you approach a girl and she's
You said
not
horrible
really
interaction
interested,
into a great one.
if she's not really interested, you can read those social cues and that she kind of wants to leave.
Yeah, a girl
Would you
crying sitting down outside of a nightclub is not a very receptive person to approaching.
No, but she was already in that state to begin with. I'm talking about where, you know, all things being independent, that you approach her, she's in a normal state, and then, you know, after you speak to her for 30 seconds, you can see that she kind of wants to go. She's not interested. Would you stay in that interaction because you think, oh, my game is going to be able to turn it around?
It's case by case. If she's like super hot and I feel like there's some
No.
angle there, then
You
sure.
end
But
up
if
giving me
I
a
feel like
pestering
she's
time.
giving me all these negative no signs, probably not.
Look,
Just move
the
on.
way
There's
that I
more girls.
view the way that I view game, and this is both the most respectful and the highest converting strategy possible, is basically just waiting on S tier. You're just waiting for going up to a girl, and she's immediately enthralled. Because when she's
Yeah,
immediately
the problem is
enthralled,
that
no,
strategy
because it
fails
communicates
horribly
that
for
she's
the
high
vast
MM.
majority of guys
You're looking
who
for
are not
high
getting
MM girls.
insane
Look, because
responses.
most girls, they are low MM, especially in the modern day. And if you go over trying to think that your game is going to be able to convert a girl who wants to stay single, then you're deluded. It's not going to work. You know, bar 1% of cases. Like, but the conversion rate is so pathetic from implementing game that you might as well just try and find a low-hanging fruit who's going to be waiting elsewhere in the vicinity. I've shown that so many times. Like, and this is why aggression maxing is so important. And the main way that any guy, and I recommend all guys do this. This is the number one form of aggression maxing. And this applies for any approach. You approach, doesn't matter if it's in a nightclub or daytime situation, whatever. You approach, you say whatever compliment, whatever opener you want to say, it doesn't really matter. But then the next part is the most important part of aggression maxing, and you say, do you want me to stay or do you want me to go? That's what you say. That is aggression maxing. And if you don't say that,
no,
then,
bro.
no, I promise that is the most important thing. And I know that you've not tried it because that's why you're
Bro.
shaking your head. That's what
No,
you should do. I
it's
swear on my life.
axiomatically it's kind of dumb on its face. And the
No,
reason
no,
why
it
is
makes
because
sense
you're
and
not
it works.
you're framing it in a way where you're saying that you're unable to read social cues. That's why it's
No.
so bad.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
Hey, buddy, do you want me to stay or leave? Just tell me, because I don't know. I
That's
can't read your
not the way that I
social
would
cues. I'm a
say
retard.
That's not the way that I would
That's
say
dumb,
it.
dude.
That's not the way that I'm saying it. I'm not stupid. But
Do you
the
want me
reason
to
you
stay
ask
or
it
do you want me
is
to
because-
go?
The reason
What?
you ask it is because if
Sure,
she's not
you can get
interested,
more
you would just-
investment if the
if
girl
she
says,
doesn't like your
"Yes, I
look-
want you to stay," and then you get
she
commitment
doesn't like
consistency
your look,
bias,
she would
and
just say
also
go.
it saves you time for the girls that don't. I get it. The problem with
Yes.
that is it's the same thing with Lucario. It's you're doing such an unnecessary compliance loop that it's stupid. It's unnecessary, and it also kind of subcommunicates a lack of social intelligence because you should just be assuming that it's on. That's the optimal
No,
strategy.
no,
And then
no.
when you see that
No.
signs that it's not on, then you leave. Not being able to read the sub-communications is a sign of lower social intelligence, decreases your status, puts you in a worse position in the interaction. Thank you, Austen Summers. 12 years in the game.
No. Okay, two main points. Number one, it's very important because it saves you time. It filters out all of the girls that are medium interested best.
Yes, I
Because
get
they're
that
gonna say
point.
go.
I've
They're gonna say
established
go.
that. That's the same
And
thing
if
with
it's-
Lucario. The
if
problem
you're-
is you're wasting some interactions that could be going well, dude. That's the
No,
problem.
no.
Yes,
you're not,
yes.
because- Okay, well,
When
so-
you
so-
say yes or no, and then you give the girl an opportunity to say no, you there's a gray
Yeah, she
area
would
in the
have
middle.
been best anyway. She would have
And
been.
what time are you? What time into the interaction are you thinking about using this?
After literally the second sentence, say the compliment,
Okay,
and then
no,
do you want
then
me to stay or do you
that's
want me
even
to go?
worse, dude. That's
No,
even
no,
worse.
that's
You
what
haven't
you
had
should do.
enough time to
Because-
even communicate why you're there, communicate your vibe.
Yes, you have,
Like,
because
no.
you said, look, this is what I say. These are my exact words. I go up and I say the compliment, and then I say,
Let
okay,
me let
do
me
you
stick
wanna
to the
speak?
game stuff.
Do you
You
wanna
can
speak
stick to the
for-
black pill stuff.
Do you want to speak for 1 moment, or do you want me to go? Those are the exact words that I use. And if she wants to speak for 1 moment, it highlights she at least has some interest in your looks.
Well, that's
If she says
changed.
no-
Before you said, do you want me to stay or do you want me to go?
Sorry?
Before you said, do you want me to stay or do you want me to go? The one that you just said is slightly less bad.
Yeah, I
No, it's
know.
not
Like,
good.
but I'm just trying to highlight the point so it's simple. But the exact words that I use is, do you want to speak for 1 moment, or do you want me to go?
Yeah.
And
So basically, the
reason
strategy you're
of
using is
that
aggressive
because
screening.
any
That's where
girl
the
who's
aggression comes from. I
mediocre about your
believe.
looks or less, she's just gonna leave. She's just not gonna want you to be there. And boom,
Yeah,
that
because you're
helps both of
starting
you.
from
Because
you're
you
starting
save
from the
time,
premise that
she
the
save
looks
time.
is everything. So from that premise, that point of view makes sense. The
Oh my
problem
God.
is it doesn't make sense with regard to how humans
Austen, bro.
communicate.
Austin, bro. Even ask girls, and I've asked this so many times to girls. Do looks matter? Are looks important? And do you know what they say? It sounds quite blue pilled, but it's actually quite in alignment with the BP. They will say, yeah, looks are quite important, but they're mainly important for that initial attraction. You should need to be initially attracted to a guy. That's the kind of thing that they would say. Okay, so how can you deduce that? You would ask immediately, because she already knows if she likes your looks or not. within 2 seconds. She's
Bro.
looking at your face.
Unless
She's
you're
looking at your
autistic,
presence.
you can tell that when girls are attracted to you or interested in talking to you in the beginning. You don't need to get
No, because this is the next problem. This is the next problem.
Not offensive
This is the
question.
next
Do
problem.
you have Asperger's at all?
No, I don't.
I've worked with clients with
No.
Asperger's. What?
Let me highlight this. Let me highlight this.
Do you have
This is
Asperger's?
the next problem. No, I don't. This is the next
Okay.
problem for why aggression
So
maxing
then you
is
don't need it,
extremely
dude.
important.
You can read their social cues. It's not that
Okay,
it's not
no,
that
but this is
hard.
the problem because most girls, this will happen the majority of the time, they will stay in an interaction with you not because they're attracted to you, and not because they like your looks, but because it's a fun, interesting conversation.
So what are the ways that you test for compliance, Wheat Waffles? What are the two
way that
main
I do
ways
it?
you test for compliance?
So look, how can I just ask you this question first before I get to that? So how many times have you been in the interaction with a
This is
girl,
going to turn into a
and you
free
think it's
coaching
going-
call, dude.
You think it's going well, but then 5 minutes in, she miraculously says that she has a boyfriend, or 10 minutes in, you have a really good interaction, and then she says that she's actually not looking for anything right now. Does that happen
Yeah,
often?
and if that's
Never happens
sprung
to
on
me.
you 5 minutes in,
Never
that
happens
means you're
to
doing
me.
something very wrong
No, it
because you're
means it
not
never
testing
happens
for
to me.
compliance earlier.
It means it never happens to me because I always aggression max to ensure that those are filtered out. So this is how a
Sure, that's one way to do it, but it's not the
for me.
best way to do it. The
No, it
best
is
way
the
to
best
do
way
it is
to
you
do it.
test for
It saves you
compliance
so much
through
time. Because
you
the amount
test
of
for
time
compliance
that
through
if you
physical
don't
touch.
ask any of those questions, if you don't aggression max, the amount of times that a woman will just stay talking to you because it's interesting and
Yeah, because you're
giving
not
her a fun
screening
time and you're a
properly,
funny
dude.
guy. Like just because
You can
she's a
screen,
fun,
you can test for compliance in other ways, bro.
yes,
You
and
don't
the
have
way
to
that you
just ask
screen, which is
binary
what I'm
questions.
talking
You're not a
about.
computer. Boop,
Yeah,
boop,
and the
beep,
way that
boop.
you screen,
Do
which is
you
what I'm
like
talking
me?
about.
Please give me permission to like myself.
Look, the way that you screen, which is what I'm talking about, is you aggression max. So you do that
Okay,
in a
stop
couple
using
of
that
ways.
term. What you're saying is you are asking her a yes or no question as to whether or not she's attracted to you. The term
Yes.
that you're using doesn't even make sense with the thing. The other maxes and random meme zoomer terms you use kind of apply. This one doesn't even make sense, dude. You're not being aggressive. In fact, you're being kind of like autistic. It should be
No,
called
it's-
autism maxing. It's like, do you
No, but the
like me?
reason
Should
it's
I
called
stay? I
aggression
can't
maxing,
read
it's not-
social cues.
It's not aggression
Please
like
tell me.
anger. No, it's not aggression like anger. It's aggression as in like you're making bold and decisive
Full-blown
moves.
autism. Yeah, it's just
Look,
not good, dude. You'll come back
it is.
around. It's fine.
No,
A
no, no,
fool who
because-
persists in his folly will soon become wise. Dude, I want to move on to my next point.
Well,
So
you can
I'm
try
curious
and
of
move
your
on to the
take
next
on
one,
this.
but I've tried and tested my strategy, and I know that it works.
That's great,
And-
dude.
but-
You can try and test everything. You can have confirmation bias that it works or doesn't work. The thing is, there's other strategies, and you can compare those strategies.
And they don't work.
So
look, this is the
So
biggest
try
complaint
my
that-
strategy. If you're a man of science, go out and try being a little bit more physical or a little bit more sub communicating more attraction for the girl. So you have stronger eye contact, you have closer proximity, you do more down talk, Maybe you do a little casual tap on her shoulder. Maybe you talk about topics, love, sex, dating, relationships, this type of thing. And you can hint at it in different ways like that. And then you can have her either bring it up sooner, or if you test for compliance and leading her around, she doesn't want to follow you. That's also another sign. But generally off the open, you can just see it her face. My next point.
Wait, look, can I just say one more thing to respond to that? So,
Yeah, you got to change the term for that one, though. I think you would agree that the aggression maxing doesn't make sense in that context because you're not being aggressive.
Okay, but I think that those strategies,
it'd be like hyper screen maxing would be a more accurate.
The strategies that you mentioned, they should they can be effective, but only once you already know that she at least has some attraction for your looks as a baseline. If she doesn't, then she's not going to welcome those methods of escalation on board, and she's going to find them very off-putting. And the reason that aggression maxing is so crucial in the first 5 minutes, and the way you do that is by asking, do you want me to stay or do you want me to go? Do you want to talk for a moment? And are you single? And if you're single, are you looking to stay single or are you open to dating at the moment?
Okay, again, dude, you're very new to all this, so you have that kind of Dunning-Kruger
within the first
effect.
5 minutes. No, within the first couple minutes.
You're new to this, so you have the Dunning-Kruger effect. You're like, oh, I tried this, it works. This means yes, I get it. But as you gain more experience, as you learn more, you find that there's other strategies, dude.
You keep interrupting me. Look, so
because what you're saying is silly.
No, it's not.
Are you single? Hello, ma'am. Are you single?
That's not what I'm saying.
Every girl has some guy she's talking to.
You're putting like a really weird spin on it every single time. That's not how I would.
Because, dude, it's just bad game. I'm not gonna.
I'm saying it in a much more.
You're not the game guy, bro.
Look,
okay. No one cares about your opinion on game. It's not. That's not why people like you. People like you because of your black pill ideology.
Yes, and what
you don't need to be an expert in everything.
Ideology is that a woman has already decided whether she will want to like you or not within those first 10 seconds. And the way that you find out is by asking her. If she's already decided whether she likes you or not,
okay,
then you might as well just ask.
Shitty inputs give shitty outputs. Your shitty premise that all the looks are all that matters. 10 seconds in, she can tell if she wants to bang you or not. And there's nothing that can happen to change that. The fatalism idea. That leads to that shitty outcome of you having a suboptimal game and asking questions that are not optimized. Like, well, no, are you single? Do you want me to stay or go? Those are bad questions. So
they're not bad questions.
Yes, they are, dude. I just explained it in multiple levels.
Well,
like,
have you ever
shows
tried
lack of social intelligence. It's suboptimal because, dude, I've been doing this for fucking 12 years. I have thousands of students executing this. I can watch it on video. I film not only myself, I film tons of other guys. Every immersion program I have 4 guys. I'm filming them. I listen to what they say. I review it. I have like terabytes of footage of this.
It is, and I've watched those in the field, not necessarily from you or your clients, but I've watched them from other PUAs. And these guys aren't aggression maxing anywhere near enough. And a lot of the time, they are just talking to a woman aimlessly.
I don't know if this is a hill that you should die on, and neither should I. I think we should move on.
10 minutes of some drawn-out interaction, they'll eventually ask for her number.
I've addressed that. You don't let it get 10 minutes without testing for compliance in other ways.
Yeah, and
okay, let's just agree to disagree.
Compliance, in my opinion, is that you ask questions such as if she's single, because then if she's available, look, it's the main 3 things is she available, which you find out by asking if she is single, is she mentality maxed, which you find out by asking if she wants to stay single or if she's open to dating, and the last thing is if she likes your looks, which you find out by asking, do you find me attractive? If you also
and those would all be great things to ask if you were talking to a computer.
Yes, all 3 of them. Then that means that you are now talking.
Unfortunately, women have emotions, and there's better ways to do things.
And who finds you physically attractive? Who do you think you're going to have more success with? If you're talking to a girl who is single, wants to date, and finds you attractive, or if you're talking to a girl who has a boyfriend, isn't looking for anything new, and doesn't find you attractive, who's going to get you more results out of those 2 girls?
Okay, you're missing the point. I test for those same things too. I just do them in a better way, and I don't do it in a way that makes me look like a social retard.
What's the problem
with let's move on, dude.
We've
we've beaten this horse to death. So I'm curious of your take on this. So this is my last point in the objectively disproven category contention, and it's that it can be disproven axiomatically, just like a priori logic. So ugly people exist. That means that they had ugly parents who formed relationships and reproduced. So that means that their dating success, i.e. what I described in the beginning, getting into a fulfilling relationship, it's not solely dependent on their physical attractiveness because they're literally getting into they're getting into relationships. So a very common like coping strategy is to deny counterexamples, dismiss them as exceptions. Like, oh yeah, these ugly people, sure, they got some results or whatever. They got in a relationship, they got sex, but it's because blah, 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 whatever. They just deny it as a counterexample. But if you define ugly as 1.5 standard deviations below the mean, that would mean that there's like 6.6% of the population of Earth that's ugly, like just gross. That means that there's 534 million people on Earth that are ugly. And where do they come from? And are they all going to die off because they're not attractive enough? I think one thing that's not kind of talked about enough is like, even if you're like disfigured, horribly ugly, whatever, you could literally fuck another ugly person. So I don't like the idea that I see bantied about. I know maybe you don't have this idea, but I see it in a lot of comments. And it's like, if you're like average, it's over for you. Like, or if you're below average, it's over for you. It's like, if you just define below average, like below the mean, that's 2 billion men. So the fact that millions of ugly people have relationships and kids shows you that dating success isn't all about looks.
The West is different.
If you're buying into the black pill idea, you're basically ignoring the obvious that, you can just by going out there meet someone. Maybe it's not like, I'm not going to say like, if you're like horribly disfigured, you're going to be like slaying tens or something ridiculous like that. And I'm sure you're aware that I adopt a holistic strategy. I do think looks are part of the equation. I'm not a retard. But how do you even hold that idea? Because every time I research black pill, it's basically like just like horrible fatalism and just like if you're ugly, it's over for you. No girl's ever going to touch you. And then it's like, but there's like, you go outside, you see like fucking thousands of ugly couples. Most people in society, especially in America, dude, Europe's obviously better by you. But like, dude, in America, it's like fucking, you walk outside, like dude, you'd be lucky to see like a couple attractive people.
No, that's very, very, it's the opposite of what I've seen actually. If we're looking at the 18 to 29 age group,
start with the a priori logic. So ugly people exist. They had ugly parents who formed relationships, reproduced. That means that dating success, getting into fulfilling relationships, not solely dependent on physical attractiveness. What's your take on that?
Okay. So first and foremost, historically, 80% of women have reproduced, while only 40% of men have. So that means that pretty much every woman is reproducing. This goes through all out of human history. However long humans have been around for, like 100,000 years. 80% of women have reproduced, 40% of men have. And that means...
I'm curious if you know off the top of your head, what was the worst period in human history?
Is it going to be the ugly guys, or is it going to be the handsome guys? Who do you think is being that 40%? Obviously it's not going to be exactly the top 40%. You might have like a 50% or the occasional.
Okay, can we pause? I just want to stay on that one point. So you said, who do you think's reproducing? Is the ugly guys or the hot guys? So
yes.
The worst reproductive ratio in human history was during the Neolithic, which is 10,000 BC to 2000 BC. 17 women reproduced for every one man. That's the worst ratio in human history. And if black pill were true, you basically the literal exact framing that you used was, who do you think they're going for? The hot guys or the ugly guys? If black pill were true, that would basically, the reason for that was that there was just a super Chad race that like every woman just gravitated toward.
That's not true.
That's actually not the truth. The reality, let me finish. In reality, it wasn't due to looks. It was primarily due to unequal control of resources, meaning that the high status men in that society basically could monopolize multiple wives, monopolize reproductive opportunities. They had social hierarchies that reinforced that. They gave their resources were given to their male offspring, and it granted them disproportionate access to mates. So that's the worst time in human history, and it was because of resources, status, and social dynamics that played a bigger role, not
actually true.
For looks.
Congratulations. Everything that you said in the last minute and a half is entirely false because it's actually been debunked.
Is it? Is it?
Yes, it has. And I remember.
Okay, let me pull up some
spoke about it
studies
in
on
the
this.
first chapter of my book. I can't remember all of the reasons, but one of the reasons was because in that period it was a very, very violent time, and you had civilizations invading other
That's
civilizations.
one cause, but it's not even the primary cause.
I can't remember what the other causes were, but there were other ones as well. And
Monopolization of resources and
it wasn't solely about
social
monopolization. There were other
a social
factors.
hierarchy and also resources that flowed to male offspring kind of concentrated that. It was an agricultural age, basically.
That is partially a factor, but there were other factors which, for the most part, debunks this 17-1 disparity. For example, like the point that I gave that, if it was a very violent time when one tribe or civilization invades another, what do? They kill all of the men off, and then they take the women and they incorporate them into their own societies now. And now,
It's definitely part of it.
Let's say that, I don't know, even look at like the Mongolian hordes. There was only like a couple million soldiers, I think even less. But if they invaded a country, there'd be millions. I think like 100 million died in those invasions. As a total. And that's pretty much all going to be men, who the victims were. But then what happened to the women? What happened to the 100 million women who were captured? Obviously that they're going to be brought into the empire. And you look at Genghis Khan, I think he impregnated like 1,000 women or something crazy. Is because and if you look at that period of time, you're going to be like,
keep going. I just gotta go to the bathroom.
He had like 1,000-to-1 ratio of like how many women he was able to monopolize. It was mainly because he just killed off all of the competition. I'm gonna have a look at what was the other point that he mentioned. Oh yeah, the logical part of how it's how ugly people exist. So my first point is that women can reproduce, and pretty much all women reproduce. 80% throughout human history have, while only 40% of men have. So pretty much unattractive women who desperate men are going to go for, like normie tier men are going to go for. They keep the sub 5 genes continuing from these unattractive women. And the second reason is that nowadays the rules have changed. That it's beta bucks is no longer as much of a viable strategy as it used to be. And throughout all of human history, if you were like some 4 out of 10 guy, then you might be able to beta box your way to getting a wife and pass on your genes, even if you're below average looks. However, that's only because you've beta boxed in order to obtain that. But nowadays, beta box is becoming less and less of a viable strategy. And the final point is that nowadays, what's considered ugly is not the same as it was 50 years ago. The 6s of today are going to be the 5s of tomorrow. And you see this the most explicitly with regard to height because, you can actually attach numerical values to that. Like 100 years ago, the average World War I soldier was 5'5". If you look at the records for America, Germany, the UK, the average height for these soldiers was 5'5". And nowadays, people are going to be like, if you're 5'5", it's over for you. Which there's is very, very difficult. I wouldn't say it's over, but if you're 5'5", it's extremely, extremely hard. And most people would understand that if you're a short guy who's 5'5", then it's going to be very, very difficult to find a long-term relationship or marry a woman. But 100 years ago, pretty much every guy who was 5'5" managed to find a wife. But that's because nowadays the standards that women have, their beauty standards, not just in terms of height, but everything, are increasing. So, what's considered ugly today wasn't considered ugly throughout history. So it was easier for stereotypically unattractive men to be able to pass on their genes in those times. But nowadays, they just don't cut it. They're below the threshold nowadays.
That is certainly an opinion. That is one of the opinions of all time. But yeah, I just pulled up the study for that. And there's a couple other science articles on it. But yes, warfare does play a role, and that's actually why in Islam they have like they're allowed to have 4 wives, because that statute was put during a time of like constant warfare, and like there were literally just too many women. So it's definitely part of it, but they also said in that study clan structure, the social hierarchies of that um also were a massive factor in it. And the interesting thing is, like, if you look at like the default human state, like if you just say what is human nature, we are largely just the same as we were in the hunter-gatherer era. Like, just genetically speaking, we're anatomically modern humans. There's very, very, very little genetic changes that have occurred
We're
other than
significantly
like the
taller.
tolerance of lactose.
We're
And
significantly taller,
in
though.
hold
The
on,
average height used to be 5'5".
in the Paleolithic, so 10,000 years ago to like 3.3 million years ago, the average reproductive ratio was 1-to-1. So it was basically what it was like in the 1950s. It was like 1-to-1. So the thing is, it's like you're saying that looks create this monopolization of partners. Whereas when you had a time where basically resource acquisition couldn't even really occur much in the Paleolithic, we were hunter gatherers, constantly like following animals around. That's why like women seriously don't care that much about your resources. They actually care more about your resourcefulness, your ambition, your drive. Obviously, resources do play a slight role, but they do factor in your position on hierarchies, because resources tend to flow to those places in the hierarchy. And also social ties and stuff like that, status can influence a lot of different dynamics, especially like how your offspring get transferred that status. So if you look at like throughout human history, you're right what you said, like 80% of women reproduce, 40% of men reproduce. That was not static throughout time. And the worst period of inequality was during times where there was massive concentrations of resources in the hands of very few, and there wasn't a very flat like Gini index or whatever back in the Bronze Age or the Neolithic. So it's like 1-to-1, then it went super horrible, and then it's basically came back to 1-to-1, and now I do agree with a lot of things you're saying about the problems nowadays. I wouldn't say that it's 1-to-1 anymore. I'd say it's probably like 1-to-1.1, 1-to-1.2, something like that.
No, not even close, bro. The dating market's way more monopolized nowadays than it was 50 years ago. Way more. Do you think the dating market is more monopolized nowadays or less?
Then compared to when?
Like 50 to 100 years ago.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, way more monopolized. And why is it becoming more monopolized?
I would say it's a combination of what is the word called? Evolutionary mismatch. We're in environments that we're not supposed to be in that cause like a lack of socializing and social skills. Men get, put into different subcultures online. I think black pill is one of them. I don't think it's very helpful. I'll get into that later. But that feminism, the rise, like men are exceedingly treated and viewed as dispensable and not like necessary. And that's not just like in practical terms, but also in just like the mindset about how women view men. Radical feminism. I'd say also the preponderance of dating apps and meeting people online.
That's the main reason.
What else?
That's the main reason.
Yeah.
It's all because of apps. And the reason is very, very intuitive. Because, as we all know, the apps they're the number one way that people meet nowadays. It's the number one way that couples meet. So if we're going to talk about why the dating market is monopolized, why don't we think about what is the nature of the medium of the number one way that people meet, which is dating apps? Well, there's two very, very important characteristics. Number one, it's completely anonymous. You can spin plates as a Chad. You can date multiple girls. You can do all of this stuff. And if you're an unattractive guy, you're going to be left in the slumps, and you're not going to get any matches. Which very, very easily allows the Chad to monopolize, because he can spin these plates, and there's nothing that anyone's going to find out about it unless he gets caught. Like if a girl checks his phone or whatever, because it's anonymous. Meanwhile, 50 years ago, when the dominant way that people would meet is through social circle. And social circle, everyone talks to one another. So Chad couldn't spin plates, but nowadays he can. And the second reason is because these apps are rigged to make the rich even richer. They are rigged in the Chad's favor even more, because the way that these apps work is they have an algorithm which gives you an ELO score, and if the more handsome and attractive you are, and the better your photos are, then you're going to get more likes, and then because you get more likes, your ELO goes up, and then you're pushed like to the top of the card stack. But I've done Tinder experiments myself of girls which I've got coming up on my channel in future videos. And when I was swiping, I noticed that like the Chads were at the top of the card stack, and after like 50 swipes or whatever, then I noticed I was in like sub 5 territory. This is where all like the sub 5 dudes were being kept on the app. But at the top it's the Chads, so they're getting the most exposure, and they're getting even more exposure and more attention because the algorithm is propping them up even more, which increases the monopolization even more.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with that, and if you've seen my channel, you know I don't really think that apps are the best way to meet girls, and I think it's actually really bad for men's mental health in general. Like, if you're just like an average to above average looking guy, you're getting matched with like disabled like transsexuals. Like, it doesn't even make sense. Like, the quality of women that you can meet in real life versus dating apps is like night and day. It is so like absurd. It is like disgusting. Like even with really good photo shoots, it's very disturbing. I definitely understand where this point of view comes from. What?
Apps are rigged. No, apps are rigged in the West.
Yeah, and they're not good for society. I think we could both agree on that. Like, and dude, I've met people that worked at Tinder. And like, dude, even the employees at Tinder, they get put higher up in the algorithm. They're literally like monopolizing the ELO. Like, they're just like hacking it's crazy.
Yeah. Apps are definitely rigged, and I agree with your point that if you focus on real life, you have more opportunities, and the quality is noticeably higher. Like for apps, you can get good quantity. Like the quantity is definitely there from apps because the amount of exposure is higher. The on average of girls from apps is higher because the very fact that she's on a dating app, usually at least somewhat signifies she's open to dating. She wants to meet guys. She wants to put herself out there. But oftentimes, if you do approaches from real life, like a lot of the time the girl isn't available or she's low she just wants to stay single. However, when you find the available and higher girls in real life, then the quality can be noticeably higher because they're nowhere near as rigged as apps. Apps are just so rigged.
Yeah, I'd say like an intermediate between that would be like between day game and apps would be night game because fewer percentage of girls are going to go out at night that have boyfriends. Like, I know personally, I have a girlfriend. I don't.
Night game is rigged as well. Night game is rigged. It's not as rigged as apps, but I would say in order of terms of rigged, it goes apps are the most rigged, then night game is rigged. And then
how do you rig every nightclub and bar and event in the world?
There's multiple reasons for why clubs are rigged. Number one is because terrible ratios. Most clubs,
it's venue selection. Just go to good venues. Every city has good venues.
Yeah, but not every. Yeah, that you can do that to some degree.
And also certain cities, especially in Europe, there's like literally like. You ever been to Portugal?
No, I haven't. Are you going to say
there's like whole streets in different parts of the world that are just like fun. You can just go outside, talk to tons of people. I think the advantage of night game largely is that you can have a huge volume. Like you have like, you can tens of thousands of people go out at night. And
yeah, that's true. You can exposure max a lot more easily at night game because everyone's in near enough the same age range. It's a dense environment. The average is higher of the girls, so you can.
Can you redefine for people who are
mentality max? Mentality max. Because if a girl's at a club, like she's going to be higher mentality max rather than the girl sitting at the cafe at her laptop, probably studying. There's a high chance that she just wants to stay single because she's there on her laptop studying for a course. But if a girl's gone out of her way to go out to a nightclub, the is higher because she's peacocking to some degree to signify that she's on the market. And as you mentioned, higher proportion of single girls go to clubs as well. So the expected value can be higher from clubs, but they're still more rigged as a whole for two main reasons. The ratios are terribly bad, and number two is that the amount of exposure that the girls are getting is way, way higher compared to what a girl would ever get from daytime approaching. What I mean by that is that the guys, not only do they come out in higher numbers to clubs, which makes it rigged in itself, but guys spam like crazy in clubs, even blue pillars, even guys who
Dude,
don't
I think
know
you're just
about
focused on the
sport.
wrong things. Like, you can go
No,
to
no,
clubs
this
with
is
good
true.
ratios. You
This
can
is true.
befriend
No, no, no.
promoters. You can go to good venues. Like,
No,
why
this
focus
is
on the
look,
negatives?
any guy would know that this is what happens in clubs, especially the later it goes on. It gets to like 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. Like the ratios get worse as the night progresses, and
Correct.
eventually, the girls just get sick to death of being approached. So like even if you're a handsome guy who approaches her, then she gets so annoyed just because she's been approached by so many thirsty guys. Because most guys can only approach behind one of two
Yes,
shields.
I agree. You should go out
Either-
earlier in the
either
night.
online shield or drunk shield. And what do you think that's going to do to the perception of a woman's beauty if she's getting spammed like crazy in these clubs? It's going to make her think that she's a lot higher perceived value compared to when she's not in the club. And this is the perfect story that highlights this about how rigged clubs are. So one time I was on a date with this girl, and she was definitely below my looks level. There was no question about that. And I just knew that, like, if we was in any setting, like just walking down the street, or even if we weren't, with each other, then she would probably be wanting me to come up to her, and people would know that, like, I'm probably more attractive than her. But then later that night, we went to this club, and we was dancing, and then this girl comes out of nowhere, and then she comes up to her, and she starts blowing all of this smoke. She's like, "Oh, you're so gorgeous, you're so beautiful," like all of this stuff. And then do you know what she does? She then turns to me, and do you want to know what she says to me? She says, "She's gorgeous, don't mess it up." And I was just thinking, like, what? Are you crazy? Like, I think that I'm dating down here. Why are you telling it as if I'm the one who, needs to not try to screw it up? Because I think that I was above her looks level. Do you know what I mean? But that would never happen outside of a nightclub, because clubs are just so rigged, and the girls are all seen as beautiful, and the men are seen as less attractive.
Yeah, I'm kind of jumping the gun here, but I think a big problem with the way that you think about things is you tend to ignore the giant elephant in the room, and you focus on like the very small details, and then you use those small details to create a narrative that is disempowering. So an empowering good mindset wouldn't be like, let's find bad examples of how meeting girls at night is bad. If you want, like, I'm very pragmatic. You probably understand that. I'm thinking about, like, my whole job is, there's a guy, he wants to, have sex and get in a relationship. How do I make that happen? And you don't really make that happen by focusing on the negatives.
No, but if you cut out the negatives from your life, then you can get rid of the dead weight, and you can get rid of inefficient strategies. And I think that, you should.
But
try
your
to
night game isn't inefficient. That's the thing. Like, I've
the
slept
clubs
with
are very, very
hundreds of
rigged.
girls from night game. My clients have slept with hundreds of girls from night game.
On average, though,
think about it like this. Think about it like this.
Okay, in fact,
there's a person who's saying, I'm going to put 500 girls into a room for you so that you can meet all of them. I'm going to create the music. I'm going to have alcohol available. I'm going to have good lighting. And even if you go to good venues, if you know how to do venue selection, you're going to go to places that have the ratio in your favor. So I obviously agree that there's better strategies, but it's like, it's one of the best that there is. Like, you can go out at night, not even go to one venue. You could literally just stay on the street and approach hundreds of girls, meet tons of girls, get numbers, get Instagrams, meet cool guys, set up events. Like there's a reason why it's so popular. It's like, it's a great way to meet people.
Right. Can I just ask you this one question? So, if I'm not talking about all of these meticulous night game strategies that you mentioned, like finding the perfect venue and all of that stuff.
You don't need to be perfect.
For a guy, who lives in just a regular city or town, and there's a standard club down the road. If you was in his shoes, and you're trying to meet girls there, would you, on average, find higher quality, more attractive girls? Would you be able to date more attractive girls from that place, or if you instead focused on daytime approaching? Like on average, in your experience,
What size of a city?
Let's just say 500,000.
See, what I
On
would tell
average, where have
people,
you found more beautiful girls? Have you had more success with beautiful
I would
girls?
say, I would
in the
honestly
day
say it depends, but I
or
would
at night?
probably say daytime. People
Exactly,
literally
that's
know
what I
me
mean.
as like
Me
the
too.
best day game person in the world. So
That's exactly what I found too. When I'm in clubs, I've often found that dating down is the go-to strategy. It's way more often, and it's because clubs are way more rigged for the reasons that
yeah,
I mentioned.
if I were to be purely objective, I would say one of the things about a bar or a club is that there's a lot of options of guys, so you don't really stand out as much, and you don't have the same like kind of wow factor as like a guy who's just like seeing a girl throughout the daytime and approaches that. That definitely requires more courage, and girls respect that.
Exactly. So there's a way higher chance that you end up dating down if you go to a club because it's just so much more rigged. Because as you mentioned, there's like way more options that women have when they're at a bar or club.
Yeah, I will say
Apps are the most rigged. Apps is most dating down. Apps is most dating down.
Yeah, for a night game, it doesn't have. There's a lot of different strategies how you can play night game. I think that the top two would be like one is you're just going after certain girls and you want to pull them and bang them. The other one is basically like you're meeting girls and you're inviting them to like social circle type events, boats, parties, fun things, and then you just kind of like do the whole social circle type of thing, and they invite their friends. That's also a viable strategy, but I do agree with you, dude. I love day game. It's fucking sick, and you meet really high
Daytime
quality girls.
approaches is way less rigged. Like the quantity is quite low because
Less
it's
rigged.
quite
I just like the term rigged, as if like there's like some weird like cabal of people that like, should we rig day game? They're like, no, save that.
yeah.
The one
But
safe
it's
space.
just harder to spam with. Like it's difficult to get a good quantity from
Yeah.
day game because it's if you just walk around the town, especially in America where it's non-walkable cities, like it's not actually that common that you see reasonably attractive girl. It's a bit easier in Europe because there's cities that are walkable where there's a lot of footfall, and you can more easily find the beautiful girls. But in America, it's a lot harder, like to try to spam max for day game.
Yeah, honestly, Europe's so sick for that. You go to Barcelona or any of those big cities, you can literally approach a girl every single day for the rest of your life and not run out.
Not even just like one per day. Like you can approach easily 10 per day just from doing your day-to-day activities. Like just walk into the grocery store, just walk in, going on to the walk to the gym, just having a breather throughout the day. Like you could easily, not necessarily 10, but minimum 3 per day, minimum, just by doing your day-to-day. If you was in a European high population city. In America, it's not as possible when everyone's in their cars.
Okay, I want to go to my next contention, is that the black pill is harmful. So by this point, I basically showed with, biology, evolutionary psychology, some of that kind of stuff that, like, I don't even know if you're a black pill, dude. You have so many beliefs that are kind of different to black pill. Like,
well,
maybe your belief system is different than your audiences or other people in the space, or like the general black pill.
Like are more BP'd than other people. I would definitely describe myself as very, very BP'd, and I would say that there's 3 main pillars for the BP, and they are that women want to date up, the importance of looks, and the importance of genetics with regard to your looks. And I absolutely believe in those 3 pillars to a very, very strong degree. But
so do you disagree with the definition I gave earlier?
What was the definition you gave earlier?
So
if your definition is it's over, bro, then that's not what I believe in. That's not what I believe in.
An ideology that views genetic physical attractiveness as the sole determinant for success in dating relationships.
Not the soul. No, not the soul, but the most important.
So if you
Most
say it's the
important.
most important, what percentage weight would you give to it for sex, for initial attraction, sex, and relationships? What percentage
Initial
weight would
attraction
you?
is like 98%. Like that is what initial attraction means. Initial attraction is your looks. That's her first impression of her seeing your profile come up on Tinder. That's her first impression of you saying your first
And then
words
for
when you're
sex,
approaching
what
daytime.
percentage would you put?
Depends. If it's like the primal version, then it's almost all looks, like at least 98% again. But if we're talking non-primal, because you can get action in different ways. You can get action from paying for it. Like you go to the Netherlands, you can pay for it legally. Like, that means that money was your 100% determiner to get access to that. But that's not
And then
primal.
for getting into a relationship, what percentage would you place looks as important?
Still pretty high, to be honest. At least 70, at least. It's high.
Interesting. Yeah,
People
that's interesting
underestimate.
because that's very stark in contrast to like what evolutionary psychology, biology, and like even polls of women say. So how do you get to inflating the
Okay.
numbers of those so drastically?
Well, if you said polls, if you ask polls of women what they care about, what do you think they're gonna say?
I get what you're getting at is that women are going to say like
Cool.
very like
They're gonna
airy
say
fairy stuff.
kindness, good listening
Yeah, because
skills.
they're placing those characteristics on guys that they're attracted to. That's what you would say. Right?
Exactly. Yeah, they already want the in shape, handsome guys, the guys that they desire his looks, the ones that they have primal attraction for. Like looks is the main thing that I focus on nowadays is primal. I'm not even focused on like trying to find love, trying to find a relationship, trying to find
It's interesting you say
all
primal
this other
because
stuff.
what
All I
is
care about is
attractive in
primal.
a primal sense, like Paleolithic primal sense, is more than just looks.
I would say
So
the
why
vast
are you
majority of those
misusing the
looks.
word primal, or are you using like is this a new invented term that you're using for something else?
Primal to me means that she has the authentic, raw, like lust for you. Like she is after your genetics. That's what makes her desire the action. It causes the H word for her. Um,
Interesting. So you think that looks are the only thing that can make a woman horny?
No, I would say it's the most important factor. Not the only thing, but I would say it's
You
the
gave it
most
a 98% importance for sex.
maybe not 98, but like 95%. 95. It's extremely high. It's extremely high. Like if you don't have the looks, she's not gonna have the primal desire for you. She's not gonna want your genetics. Like she might have sympathy action with you. She might do it just for she feels kind of bad, or like it's too late to say no now. She might do it like that, or because you've paid for her, or you've just gestured for her for ages and ages and ages, and you've caught her at the high micro time for her. Like if a girl's really really turned on, and she's high micro in that moment, then she might just go for like the first like slightly above average option that she goes for, but she certainly won't come back for you the next day because she doesn't actually have that intense primal desire where she's permanently giving you S tier and she is wanting to see you for multiple times per week, like on an everyday a consistent basis. Like if a girl has action with you one time and doesn't want to see you again on future occasions, chances are a lot of the time it's just because she wasn't that primarily attracted to you. She was just like, oh, he's good for now, I guess. Like I'm quite turned on, so I might as well just do it. That's what she's thinking.
Yeah.
She's not thinking like, oh, I want
I-
this guy for the rest of my life because I'm that primarily attracted to him.
Yeah, so I guess that's a big fundamental disagreement that I have is I don't think I don't think the reason a woman has sex is 95% determined by your looks. And I have seen so many counter arguments to this.
The primal version is. Primal version absolutely is. It's about the looks.
Well, that's kind of like a no true Scotsman fallacy. Like I asked you what percentage of why a woman wants to have sex is due to looks, and you said 98%, and you went back to 95%.
No, I say it depends on the type of action because not all action is the same. If you're using beta box to get it,
no,
then
just
that's
sex as a
right,
whole.
What do people say?
There's
What do
a
people say?
there's
They
a
say,
book
like,
called
what
like
happens in
Why
marriages
Women Have Sex,
where the guy's
and
beta box.
they
It's the starfish version. Starfish is non-primal. That's non-primal. I know when I'm getting primal, and when I'm getting primal, I know it's because she's made a lot of comments and suggestive remarks about my looks, and she really, really finds me handsome. I'm getting S tier choosing signals from her, and when I'm getting that, then the action is significantly more primal, and I sense that. I can see the body language. But if you're having non-primal because you had to gesture your way in order to get it, or pay to play, or beta box, then you always get non-primal, and it's just pathetic, really.
Okay. Well, I'd say that there's other triggers for sexual desire other than just pure looks. One of them is even just like being a sexual authority and like knowing what you're doing. Here's an example. He puts this out in the open, so he's not going to feel like I'm shaming him or something. But who was that guy? Fuck. God damn it, dude. Whatever. Basically, this guy is super, super attractive, bodybuilder. You know, unfortunately, tiny dick, bad in bed, this type of thing. It's tough. Like, you're saying that the reason a girl will come back is just your looks, because looks create a primal attraction for her. Being good in bed is a skill set that women also value, and that is also another thing that can keep girls coming back. Like,
the two most important reasons,
dude,
the two most important factors that determine if a woman will come back is one, primal attraction for your looks, and two, her macro MM. So, but there's very, very few women nowadays, especially who are young, who are high macro MM. So,
how many
there's some girls,
can you give me like a general lay count that you have? Because I'm so curious.
I don't want to say, but I think it would shock a lot of people.
Okay, because you're saying a lot of things that it sounds like someone that's like kind of a newbie or intermediate in game would say, and like I just feel like you haven't had much relationship experience or haven't had much. You know, I'm sure you've had some experience, but I don't think you've
I'll tell you after the stream.
Okay, that's fine.
You know,
but
I think
so some of the reasons why girls like seeing a guy is they like the energy he provides. They do fun things together. They have great sex. They have good communication. They have, you know, there's other factors that relate to chemistry other than just pure like looks. And speaking as someone who, dude, I traveled Europe with this guy who, dude, I have people like asking me to get his number, his Instagram. This guy traveled with 6'4", personal trainer, like extremely attractive. Like he literally is like a 10. I don't know. No homo. I know it's kind of gay to rate guys, but he's very attractive and women like flock to him. This same guy, because he didn't understand the social context of a lot of different European countries, he didn't get the success that he wanted. He didn't understand the social dynamics. He didn't understand how game strategy plays into things. And he hated some of the countries we went to. And this is a guy who, by literally every metric, does insanely well. So not only is, even though he's he's my most attractive friend, like physically, but he struggles sometimes with dating because he doesn't read certain cues. He doesn't really get the picture sometimes. He forgets things. He forgets to grab numbers. Like, there's other aspects of dating and why a girl would see a guy again, and also why a girl lusts after a guy and craves to be around him, and that romantic longing. The three brain systems: lust, romance, and attachment. There's different like behaviors that cue certain attraction switches.
Okay, and that's fair enough. But in my experience, the two most important factors for whether you'll be able to see a girl for a long time period is, number one, if she has the primal attraction for your looks. She's giving you primal desire, lust. And number two is if she's high macro MM. If she's low macro MM, then you're not going to be able to get her because she's not interested. She just wants to stay single. She doesn't want to,
Why are you creating terms that are more confusing than terms that already exist that everyone knows?
Okay, what would be an alternative to say high macro MM?
A girl who's looking for a relationship.
Yeah, a girl
relationship minded.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's basically the same as saying she's high MM.
Yeah, but no one knows what that means, dude. You're like using an acronym that refers to something else that also you have to like explain.
I've gotten primal before, like very, very like giga S tier from girls, but then if they're low macro MM, it doesn't matter how primarily attracted they are to me. They're not interested. They just want to stay single, do your own thing. Oh, bro, I could tell you the most insane stories. I'll tell you afterwards, but I can't say them on the stream because I just can't. I just can't say them. But I will tell you the most shocking stories that will truly blow your mind, and it proves.
This is the real reason I did this debate with you. I want all the juicy behind the scenes details.
Even if you get primal attraction from a girl, if she's low MM, if she's low macro MM, then she's not going to be interested, and this
is kind of like the thing that I was getting at. Like, I think your ideas would be taken more seriously if you use them in a more like human context. I feel like you're a Generation Z. Are you Gen Z?
I'm 23 years old.
Okay, yeah. So like, I feel like the TikTok, like the Giga S tier, MM micro macro fucking Chad Stacy maxing. It's like, it's just a bit too much. I think pulling away from that would be fine.
I know, but that's how.
Okay,
I talk to my friends.
Let's go on in the debate. I haven't even gone to my second contention. This is fun though. I like talking to you. You're a smart guy. All right. Contention 2: the black pill is harmful. So, the black pill causes negative mental health outcomes. And you've done this throughout this debate where you frame everything as like, who do you think they're going for? You think they're going for the insane Chad 6-pack guy, or they think you're going for fucking sub-5 loser Gaylord? It's like framing things in dichotomies like that can be very unhelpful. And a typical, like the most common thing I found when researching black pill was the word fatalism. Would you agree that fatalism plays a role in black pill ideology?
I think for some people it does. I think within the BP space, you've got two main subgroups. You've got like the doomers who just like, oh, it's all over, bro. Like if you're not a Chad, if you're sub-8, then it's over, bro, and no one's ever gonna want you. And then you've got the other end who are like the like looks maxers and the ones who the looks maxers kind of cringe me out, to be honest. But then I wish there was kind of something in the middle which would just take a realistic approach for the BP, because I don't like either the doomers or the looks maxers.
That's kind of what I found talking to you. It doesn't seem like you really fit into like the overall, like the mass aggregate. If you took like most people, like what you said, I feel like most comments I've seen have been like very dark and fatalistic. Doomers. And I do understand that there's the looks max portion of it.
Yeah, those people are cringe. They're just on TikTok and stuff, like, and they have all these crazy strategies that just are so dumb, and they don't even work, the vast majority of them. Or if they do, it's like less than 1% of an impact. Like,
okay, I want to come back to that one. I'm going to make a note for that.
No, so basically, looks max are the guys who you would see them in a club, like they would standing in the corner, like tensing their jawline and squinting with their eyes. And then they're like, oh, why aren't these girls approaching me, bro? Like, can't they see I'm squint maxing over here? Meanwhile, like me and my friend, like if we're at the same club, like we'd be exposure maxing like crazy, and we'd already have loads of success by that point.
Yeah, so it sounds like you have a more pragmatic and action-oriented approach than most people.
Yes, 100%.
Okay, nice. Okay, that's fun. But yeah, from the black pill, I was told this is a black pill debate. So the idea, I do even think some of your ideas are like the way you frame things makes people feel like if they don't fit in that category, then it is an extreme disadvantage for them and they're not going to try because of it. So
that's just the truth. And I've said this before. I can't say what I would do if I was, if I was somebody else. I can't say if I was him what I would do. I can't tell anyone what they can do. I can't tell anyone what they should do, what I think they should do, and I'm not going to tell anyone what to do. They can do whatever they want with their dating life. But all I will say is that if I was short, unattractive guy, let's say like a 3.5 out of 10, very, very unattractive, I wouldn't try. If I was him, I would not try. What's the point? What's the point? You live in such a rigged.
Okay, I'll address that.
I wouldn't try. You might try. You might do it. And if there's a guy standing in front of me, and I tell him that if I was him, that I wouldn't try, he might say, "Oh no, I want to try though. I want to give it a stab." Then that's fine. He can do that. But I'm saying if I was him, and if I was born him, and I'm now 23 years old, and I'm him, then I would just find other things to do in my life. I would not try. That's what I would do if I was him.
Yeah, so I'm going to address this. So, first of all, the first reason why black pill causes negative mental health outcomes, which means that the black pill is harmful, is that fatalism is a massive risk factor in depression. So a core characteristic of black pill is fatalism. Like if you look at any of the comments, it's over, bro. Like if you're not an 8, you're done. Like
No, I don't
very,
believe in
very
that.
negative mindset. And
I don't believe in that.
there's a study, fatalism as a risk factor for depression, 2010. They found that fatalistic individuals reported higher levels of depression. And another study, fatalism and risk of adolescent depression, found that higher levels of fatalism increased their risk of depression by 13 times. And then in another study showing the causal link, it's called How is Fatalistic Determinism Linked to Depression? They found a sequential causal chain between fatalistic determinism and depression that's explained by the pathway. Fatalistic determinism decreases self-control, which decreases resilience, which increases depression. And that 13 times risk of depression is associated with greater pessimism. So that robs you of the motivation to even try, kind of like what you alluded to. It's like, what's the point of even trying? It creates lower self-esteem, and low self-esteem makes people believe that they're not even good enough to try, which stops them from trying, improving, and connecting with other people, leaves them stuck in a cycle of self-doubt and despair. That depression is also associated with reduced social support. So they feel more isolated, alone, and it creates more passive coping strategies, which is they avoid problems rather than solving them, which makes challenges worse over time. And this increases stress and reinforces the belief that nothing can change, worsening depression. And talking about that coping, black pill causes passive coping, which exacerbates followers' dating situations. So in the literature, they define passive coping mechanisms as rumination, where people are obsessing over their flaws, isolation, avoiding dating because they had assumed that they'll fail or it's not worth the effort, denial, they refuse therapy or self-improvement, believing it won't help, and they shun out success examples, and then cynicism, they mask emotional pain with humor or sarcasm in a way to deflect feelings. As in, like, so many comments like, dude, I'll take 10 showers a day, bro, and it's all good. It's like, and the worst part of depression and hopelessness that comes as a result of this fatalism is that depression increases suicide ideation by 96%. That's almost a doubling. Suicide attempts by 63%, and actual suicide deaths by 33%. And one of the risk factors for it as well is that involuntary or voluntary celibacy, so choosing not to engage in sex, dating, romance, and involuntary thinking that you don't have control over it, is the it's the single largest social risk factor for men's suicide. Celibacy is also linked to somatic symptoms. So like your body aches and these like headaches, anxiety and severe depression, aggravating all other mental health struggles. And that in turn fuels the cycle where it drives men deeper into isolation and celibacy, which makes them increase the depression, which increases the risk of suicide. And it's kind of sad because even men that are just commenting are writing, it's over. They're reinforcing this parasitic belief system that is literally like destroying the host. And this creates, if you know Martin Seligman, he has a book called Learned Helplessness, and this essentially describes that state. People have learned to be helpless, and they have given up trying to change. Yeah.
Okay.
Can I make one last point, or is this too much?
Go for it, yeah.
Okay.
I only have one thing to say on this topic anyway.
And the other thing is, I think the reason why a lot of people will say, hey, listen, black pill helped me because now I just gave up on women and I can go my own way and just focus on my own life. And the problem is that giving up on women and dating, it doesn't remove the biological wiring in your brain that's been evolved over 1 billion years to connect with people and to have intimacy with women. And you basically will suffer as a result of not having those. So what do people do when they don't have that connection and they don't, they still have the biological drive. So what do? They basically turn to the worst alternative and substitute, which is porn. And heavy porn use is associated with anxiety, depression, make people more socially isolated. And then that just fuels that cycle of shame, low self-esteem, mental health issues, sexual dysfunction, suicidality, depression. So it's like this extremely vicious cycle, this like downward spiral that people can get stuck into when they adopt this type of thinking. And this is backed up by psychological research. This is backed up by even like, you may not like him, but a guy like Tony Robbins, who his coaching programs have had studies done on them. And like it improves people, like any kind of therapy, self-development, self-improvement event type thing like that can help you change your mindset and the way you relate to your own emotions and your belief system can have a profound effect of making you not feel helpless, making you actually feel like you have some agency and control over your life and your destiny. So what's your take on this?
Well, I only have one thing to say on this topic as a whole, and that is that that I think, okay, if you're a 5 or above in terms of looks and SMV, then you should definitely try. That's why I try, because I think that I've got enough beauty where I've proven from my experience too that girls can give me primal desire, and it's worth it to exposure max to try and find those girls. If you're below a 5, I cannot tell you what I think you should do. You can do what you like. You can do whatever you want. If you're a 2.5 out of 10 guy, if you're the ugliest human on the planet, you can do whatever you want. You can try as much as you want. I am not going to tell you what you should and shouldn't do. But all I will say is that if I was a 4 or below, if I personally was in that situation, personally, I wouldn't try. That is what I would do. I would focus on some other things in life that I find enjoyment from. That's my opinion. I'm not going to tell anyone what they should do. People can do whatever they want. But I'm saying if I was in that situation, that is what I would do.
So you would tell a guy that's below a 5, do whatever you want, but if you're a 4.5, I would personally just give up and not pursue women at all, even though there's like a billion and a half women that are below his, like in your mentality, below his looks.
Well, there's a
mark.
couple of variables. It's taken, for instance, that they're in a Western country, under the age of 25. Okay, maybe. I think if you're like a 4 out of 10 guy, beta boxing might be viable when you're in your mid-30s, like because the macro mentality max of women increases substantially as they approach 30. So you potentially have more options, as the women get older and their mentality max increases. But, if you're like a 21-year-old guy who's 4 out of 10 at university and, barely any of the girls are interested in dudes and most of them just want to stay single, then what's the point in trying? Like, what's the point? Where are you going to get with that? You're just throwing crap at the wall and, nothing's going to stick. Like, it's not going to work. You're just wasting your time. Like, and okay, I'll even tell you this. I've done this in an experiment a couple of times with girls, because I've got a folder on my computer of like really, really, really unattractive guys, and then I've sometimes had debates with these girls and said like, like looks is very, very important nowadays, and if you're really unattractive as a guy, then you're in an extremely difficult situation. And then they've always been a bit more blue-pilled and said like, oh, that's not true though. Looks on everything. Personality can go a long way. They say all of this blue-pilled advice. And then I opened the folder. Then I said, okay, you take a look at some of these guys and you tell me if you would go out with them. And then they immediately say no. And it's not even just no. They see the photos and they're like, oh, Christ, no. Like, not even close. Like, you can see that there's zero attraction whatsoever to these guys. And then I say, okay, but would any of your friends want to go out with them? And then they just say no. And I was like, well, how do you even know that? They just like, oh, I just know that that's what would happen. Like, they wouldn't go out with these guys. They would find them too physically unattractive. That's what they say. And then I say, okay, do you think that guy should try? And then they say yes. And I said, okay, but then what advice would you give him? Like, if you was, him, then, if you're in this situation, like you're a 22-year-old guy at university, whatever, or you have a job, like, where would you try to meet girls? And there's like, I don't know. and then they don't know. Like, and this is a girl saying it, and like a girl knows how men have attracted her in the past, and she knows what things that she likes in a guy and ways that guys have met her. But when it comes to these really, really unattractive guys that I've shown her, then she can't think of any solutions. Like, and she can't think of herself or any other girls that she has as friends that would go out with this dude based on his looks. And this is before
Yeah. So
even
in this folder,
personality.
you said the folder's unattractive guys. What would you
Yes.
rate the guys of that folder?
Like threes. There's been like a couple fours as well. But there's like a couple fours in the folder who are like 20 years old, but they look significantly older, or like they've lost all of their hair by like 20 years old.
Yeah,
I'm
so
sorry
I'd
to
say
say,
that
but if you're
the most immediate counter argument to that is one that you've already used, which is that you're basically presenting a rigged scenario. You're only showing a photo and nothing else. You're basically doing like what Tinder does. You're showing a photo, nothing else, and saying, "Would you date this guy?" Like, women need more information to make determinations about that kind of thing. So,
yeah,
and I'm not
hold
going to deny the fact that the less physically attractive you are, you do have to make up that you do have to generate more value. And
yeah,
like,
and a lot of that value that you generate is just going to end up non-primal at best, because a lot of the ways that
but
the
wait,
RP
hold
community,
on.
hold on,
I framed this debate by saying successful dating requires holistic strategy. Successful dating, to me, and what I described in the beginning, is that you can enter into a long-term fulfilling relationship. They don't need to be dating 8s, 9s, and 10s. They literally just need to be dating a girl that they have sex with, connection with. And a lot
right.
of those guys,
If
because they're in
does it need
such
to be primal,
scarcity,
though?
they're going to adore that girl who said, "Hey, you know what? I'm going to be with you."
But does it need to be primal, though?
I don't know. You have so many terms, and does she need to
That's
like
not
literally be
term.
like fucking, squirting at the sight of seeing him? I don't think so.
Okay, well, for me,
Dude, I
I
even
would
know
only want to be in a relationship with someone if they were giving me primal.
Oh,
If
for
it's
sure, dude.
primal,
Same
then I'm
here.
not interested. Like,
Yeah, like
because I think because if
I
it's not
agree with you, but
primal,
I
then that's
disagree
basically just
in that I
sociopaths.
don't think looks is 95% determining that primal lust. I think it's other factors as well.
Right.
But
Let's just establish something really quickly. So when you talk about this generating value, you need to bring other things to the table if you haven't got the best
yep.
looks. Right. If you look at the RP space, what do they talk about when they're talking about compensating with things that if you're not the most blessed in the looks department? Okay, you're gonna get your money up. Okay, you're gonna get your status up. Okay, you're gonna
Social
develop your
skills.
social skills. Right. All of this stuff is non-primal. If a girl's dating you just because you tell some funny joke
Hold on.
and you got money, that's not
You keep
primal.
saying primal with, I think that term is another one that you should change, because if you look at it from a primal aspect, things like dominance, assertiveness, aggression, like social skills, those are all very primal things that women would seek out in partners. Social status, those are all very primal. In an
I don't think they're really
egalitarian
primal.
society that was primal, that was Paleolithic, like those are other traits that women would look for, and they'd get fucking wet. You can like, there's even like studies like soldiers returning from war, like literally like women get turned on just by that, just from their bravery. So there's other things that create that primal lust other than looks.
Okay, that's fair enough. Like, but I still think that the majority of primal attraction is generated by looks, and all of these other factors, like they don't amount to much. Like, I haven't got
Okay.
evidence. I haven't got besides experiences, and I can tell a lot of experiences highlighting
Yeah, but
this.
the problem is that's from an n equals 1, right? That's just anecdotal.
Yes, I know it's anecdotal, but there hasn't been studies showing like what percentage of primal attraction is attributed to looks, what percentage is attributed to money and all of this stuff. But if I had to estimate like money and all of this other garbage, it would be very, very low. And they'd find that look like, because you got to think about it. At the end of the day, we are just animals. We are just animals. We're just glorified animals. And with regard to tiger or reindeer or a wolf, like they don't have all of these compensatory factors. It's that they're judging the mates. The women are judging the king of the jungle based on his looks and his genetic quality.
Wait, did you
Like,
use wolves as an example and say looks?
the walrus who sleeps
Walruses
with,
have dominance displays. It's basically
They
who
do.
can control more
and the
territory on the
walrus
beach.
who impregnates like 100 females, because that's like extremely monopolized. Like, it's because he's the alpha male. He's got the genetic superiority in terms of the dominance and the strength and the beauty. Like, that's why he's in that position.
Yeah. So I'm not going to use this. I don't count this as evidence in this debate, but this is kind of an interesting thing. You can ask ChatGPT, like, what percentage do looks matter in sexual attraction, and then list the other percentages. This is what it gives out. And again, I'm not using this as evidence, but physical appearance, 50 to 60%, personality traits, 20 to 30%, status resources, 10 to 20%, similarity, compatibility, social proof, contextual factors, 5.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. Okay, moving on. So my next contention is that black pill is a parasitic idea that harms the cognition of and life of the host. So serendipitously, I found this book like 2 days ago, and I've been like devouring it. It's really interesting. It's called The Parasitic Mind by Gad Saad, and he's an evolutionary behavioral scientist. And in The Parasitic Mind, he basically describes this idea that parasitic ideas are kind of like mind viruses that infiltrate and propagate within the host, much like biological parasites. These ideas take hold by bypassing rational and empirical scrutiny, often relying on emotional appeal, tribalism, and cognitive biases. So basically, it's kind of like, think of like a mosquito-borne illness that gets into you, and yeah. So he uses examples like radical feminism, how feminism, this ideology infects different parts of science and things like that, and it's kind of destroying society in a lot of ways. I would argue that black pill is a parasitic idea, and it meets all 5 of the criteria that he has in the book for it. So one is immunizing mechanisms, and that's basically shielding yourself from criticism or falsification. So you see this constantly in the black pill comments and even in videos and articles. It's basically like dismissing people as blue pill or delusional optimists, dismissing people as like, you're a Chad, so whatever, that doesn't apply to me. Dismissing every argument for the other side as some kind of cope. It's the same as, it's basically like trying to silence someone by calling them a racist. The next one's unfalsifiability. They're not grounded in empirical evidence and cannot be disproven. So like a lot of things that you've even described in your own like experiments if you run on game, it's like you try one thing and then you get the confirmation bias and you say that works, but you're not trying other things. Emotional appeal. They exploit insecurity, self-doubt, and other strong emotions to gain traction. And with black pill, basically it targets feelings of despair. Like we all have things that we're insecure about or that we, struggle with. And it doesn't matter if you're like even super attractive. I know extremely attractive people who are like extremely self-critical. They're, they have those feelings, same feelings of despair and self-doubt as well. Obviously it's a spectrum, but it applies to everyone. So people that are vulnerable, that have a pretty severe insecurity, it makes them vulnerable to these ideas. And physical isolation increases this vulnerability by cutting individuals off from alternative perspectives or support systems. So you see this in like the, looks maxing groups or black pill, like Discord servers. And together, this kind of creates a feedback loop of hopelessness and self-victimization. People saying, these are your flaws. These are my flaws. Oh, fuck, I'm ugly. It's never going to work for me. My ears are too big. So it has that emotional appeal. And I would largely say that black pill is not really a result of logic. Its initial state is from an emotional repression or a difficulty loving oneself, a difficulty with self-acceptance. And we all struggle with it. And it is essentially like giving into that. But the fourth one is destruction of the host. So like biological parasites, parasitic ideas can harm an individual or group by adopting them, by impairing their decision-making or critical thinking. So black pill ideology, as I've already established, can lead to learned helplessness. That fatalism can lead to depression, social withdrawal, self-destructive behaviors, porn addiction, and I'll touch on, this further. And it discourages personal growth, self-improvement, seeking meaningful relationships. And I'm going to touch on that later as well. And the fifth one is spreadability. They're designed to replicate rapidly, often through ideological indoctrination or social pressure. So in the black pill, this spreads through online videos, forums, communities that kind of like amplify that feeling of inadequacy. And I saw the Healthy Gamer guy had a good video on this where he basically says it's good to vent and to just express that idea as opposed to not having it at all, because expression is actually a very good thing for getting out of depression. But the problem is if you're expressing that like a fart and everyone else around you is farting, you're just like in a room with a bunch of farts, and it just kind of like it just reinforces that same mindset and strips away at your self-esteem over time. And one of the main reasons, which I'm going to expound upon later, is because it's triggering your RAS. It's your selective focus is placed on your flaws as opposed to what's actually an empowering belief system for going forward, which is focused on gratitude, positivity, growth, contribution. So instead of focusing on those things that are helpful for improving your life, and not necessarily, it doesn't have to be for improving your results with women, but improving your relationship to yourself is extremely important. So even if people have these ideas and they really don't even care about girls anymore, you should at least learn to love yourself and relate to yourself in a better way. And so, yeah, black pill matches the characteristics of a parasitic idea perfectly. They immune themselves from outside opinion. They try to make themselves unfalsifiable. They relate to emotional appeals instead of critical thinking, and they destroy the host and make their lives worse. And they're often quite spreadable ideas because they cause outrage, and they're spread on different platforms that, reinforce these feelings of inadequacy.
I don't particularly have much to say on the subject, and I'm also getting quite tired. So, I know you said you had another point or whatever to say, but
yeah. Do you want me to just breeze through the rest and then just wrap it up?
Yeah. Does that mean we're gonna finish in the next 5 minutes or so?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Awesome.
Okay. So yeah. Basically, it's just RAS. Like whatever you focus on, you get. So you can focus on things that are action oriented and positive and move you toward growth contribution, or you can focus on bad things. My third contention: black pill is morally wrong. From a consequentialist ethics standpoint, it's bad because I believe that it increases harm in society and on the individual. From a deontological standpoint, Kantian ethics, black pill is morally wrong because if you universalize these ideas, despair, fatalism, it essentially leads to societal collapse and is therefore unethical. From virtue ethics, these are the top three ethical frameworks. Virtue ethics is about cultivating good character traits, and obviously black pill ain't it. And the most influential Christian ethics, the most influential ethics of all time. Basically, I could go point by point, cite verses. It's bad. But basically, my opinion is that black pill ideology is essentially like a nihilistic death cult that causes you to kind of die off. And I think it's the ultimate betrayal of your ancestors. And it's like a slap in the face to all your ancestors who toiled, who fought, who sacrificed everything to give you the gift of life for you to piss it away on a stupid ideology that isn't even true. And that self-deception would be the end of your bloodline. And basically every ethical system values reduction of suffering, and black pill essentially creates suffering because we create the state of suffering when we focus on what we lack. And that is illustrated through cognitive behavioral therapy. Contention 4, a successful dating requires a holistic strategy. Which you kind of are on board with, honestly. You talk about you should improve your looks, you should go out, you should talk to girls, but I guess you downplay the role of other things. And I could talk about this afterward after you're off. I just want to,
things, in my opinion, looks, exposure, and aggression. Those are the three most important things to get good results. Looks, exposure, and aggression. And you need all three. And I even spoke with my friend about why you need all three, because if you're missing one, then it messes the whole thing up. So if you have exposure and aggression but no looks, then you're just going to get pied off for being too unattractive. You're just going to get pied off for being too ugly. The girl's not going to want you. If you've got looks and aggression but not enough exposure, then you're basically just a basement dweller Chad. What's that noise?
sorry, borking.
Right. Yeah, if you've got looks and aggression but no exposure, then you're basically just a basement dweller Chad, because you're not even meeting any girls, you're not even interacting. And if you've got looks and exposure but no aggression, well, that means you're just going to get gestured, because you're just going to keep gesturing and gesturing and gesturing. And the girls are going to use you for your jester, because most girls that you'll talk to, they're more than happy for you to stick around and have a fun conversation, provide a good time, join them for their night and, buy them drinks for 2 hours. But, you haven't actually figured out if she's talking to you and allowing you to stick around because she likes your looks and she has primal attraction, and that's going to lead to action. You haven't figured it out because you haven't aggression maxed. So you need all three. You need looks, exposure, and aggression to get success. You're muted.
Are you curious what my formula would look like?
Okay, yeah, well, I've got a formula. Mine's just multiplied those three things together. Looks multiplied by exposure multiplied by aggression. It equals success. What's it for you?
For mine, it would be SMV times game times volume. And then I would even throw in a subcategory, and it's how you relate to yourself.
Okay. Well, that's very, very similar to mine, but just the game is swapped out for aggression.
Hey, great minds think alike. Dude, you got to change the aggression thing. People in the comments are like, what is aggression? Does he mean being aggressive? You essentially mean screening, aggressive screening is what you mean.
Yeah, it means that you're asking questions like, are you single? Do you want to stay talking to me, or do you want me to go? Are you wanting to stay single, or are you open to dating at the moment? Do you find me attractive? Do you like my looks? Do you find me handsome? It's asking those types of questions.
Yeah. Okay. So are you going to sleep, or you want to keep going?
Yeah. I'm happy to end the stream here.
Okay. All right. Well, good talking to you, dude. You're a smart guy. I think ultimately a lot of this ideology, if you did some more inner work, and I'm not saying that in a dismissive way, I do believe that coming from a place of self-compassion and forgiving yourself and shifting your focus and questions can be really empowering, not only in dating, but just in life in general. And it's one thing that it took me, quite a long time to learn, is that, you create the mental states that you inhabit. And by choosing what to focus on and the questions you ask yourself, you can kind of shift that meaning. And anyone listening, if you're constantly asking yourself the question of, when am I going to be good enough? Why am I not attractive? What's going wrong for me? You're basically, the implicit assumption in those questions is that everything's going bad, and it's a focus on things that are negative, as opposed to being grateful for what you do have, being grateful for the body that has carried you through life, being grateful the fact that you're fucking alive. You're literally given the gift of life as a human being. And don't fall into fatalism, don't fall into depression, and reach out to people for help and support. Quit porn. Porn will keep you trapped in this cycle, almost worse than anything that I mentioned. Forgive yourself. Realize that you have personal agency. We're not mosquitoes. Our entire life is not genetically programmed. You have personal choice. You can improve. And Yeah. I'll rant about this later. I want to give something for people who stayed to the very end to give like more pragmatic advice. But I don't want to keep you if you're tired. I know you're in Europe.
Wait, you say you're gonna stay on the stream?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, it was good talking to you then. It was a good debate.
Yeah, good talking to you, man. You're a smart guy, and I do think a little misguided, but I think over time you will find your own path to more empowering, like ideas, and you could be a force for good in the world.
Okay. Cool. Wait, how old are you,
Right.
by the way?
How old do you think I am? You're the looks expert.
Well, you said that you've been in the industry for 12 years, so I don't know.
Fuck, that kind of gives it
Honestly,
away.
yeah, I thought that you'd be like late 20s, but if you said 12 years in the industry, I would guess you're more like early 30s or something.
Yeah, you're right, dude. It's all my looks maxing, bro. Fuck, I look so
So
young.
how old then?
No, I'm 31.
31. All right, okay. Fair enough. Cool. All right, good debate then.
All right, man. Cheers.
See you later.
Top of the night to you.
Bye.
All right. Yeah, so I guess I'll cover like at the end of the debates, I like to go back and like look at the dropped arguments. So in the evolutionary psychology one, he basically was attacking the resources part of that, which is the first two, which is selecting a mate that's able to invest, willing to invest. Those things still play a role, but I agree that it's a smaller role, but there's other things. Selecting a mate who's able to physically protect her and her children, selecting a mate who shows good parenting skills, selecting a mate who's compatible, and selecting a mate who's healthy, which applies to other things other than just looks. Health is, it's obviously your physical attractiveness, but it's also your testosterone. It's also your body fat, your BMI, your masculinity, your health. Like, there's a lot of things that underlie your health: sleep, exercise, nutrition. And by almost all accounts, if you look at like Reddit glow up and stuff like this, if you even look at my own, I'll pull up my own transformation here. Let me pull this up. Like, you can increase your attractiveness by like 1 to 2 points and how people perceive you. I think this is the right one. Yeah. So like, let's see if I can maximize this. Boop. So yeah, before, like, fucking skinny, shitty fashion with this watch, hair looks like shit, had a broken nose, I think, at this point, like, just not good. And then over time, you can improve your SMV. You can improve how attractive you are, and not just your looks, but also other areas of your life. And a lot of people will talk about this too. Like, if you put on 10 to 20, 30 pounds of muscle, do you think you're going to be more physically attractive? Yes. So even by his own framework of, genetic looks is the only thing that matters, blah, blah, blah. You can push yourself out of that, what he calls a 4.5 or a 5, by increasing your attractiveness. So yeah, anyway. Next one is black pills disproven by biology. The dropped argument here was that I said paternal investment is essentially more looked for. It's more screened for by women. So women are looking for cues of caregiving ability, resource provision, emotional stability, long-term commitment indicators, because they want the man to stick around to help raise the child, because they realize that is actually the best scenario for raising a kid, because men offer so much. And then, yeah, so in species with shared parenting, females prioritize that. And the more paternal investment, the more women seek out those qualities. Human beings are the number one out of 505 primate species for paternal investment, and they're top 15 out of the 2.2 million species on Earth for paternal investment. So the dropped argument there was that he basically focused only on the financial resources that a man brings, and on none of the other qualities that I stated: social, emotional, raising of kids. He didn't focus on that, and he dropped that argument. Genetic determinism is false. So this was kind of against Black Pill, but it's not against him because he agrees that he agrees with interactionism. So the idea of genetic determinism, that your looks are genetically determined and they're going to be that way forever, is not how it works at all. And the scientific consensus is that interactionism is what actually works. And that's that your environmental factors are shaping your appearance, behavior, and development at every phase of life. Let me say that again. It's nature and nurture working together. So your environmental factors combined with your genetics they're shaping your appearance, behavior, and development at all stages of life. So genetic predispositions are not predeterminations. Anyway, the next one was that Black Pill is disproven by history. So if Black Pill were true, that the main cause of your dating success, your success in reproduction basically, is based on looks, then that would mean that the time in history when there was the most disproportionate mating opportunities, it would be caused by looks. So let's say the Neolithic period between 10,000 BC and 2000 BC, which I pulled up a study for to prove, 17 women reproduced for every one man. And that was not due to looks. It was due to primarily how the society was set up so that resources concentrated in the hands of the few. And there was a social dynamic that reinforced that. And then obviously there was warfare, I'm not denying that. But it doesn't show that looks were the main thing. Next, the Black Pill, the idea that your looks are predetermined and that guys that are below average are going to get nothing, is disproven axiomatically. So on its face, if ugly people exist, that means they had ugly parents, most likely, who formed relationships and reproduced. That means that dating success, like getting into a fulfilling relationship with a girl, is not solely dependent on your physical attractiveness. And if you say that there's, look at a normal curve, 1.5 standard deviations below the mean, that would mean that 6.6% of people are ugly. That means that there's 534 million ugly people on Earth. So where did all those people come from? They came from ugly people who found a way. That argument was, I think that argument was dropped, but he pointed out that there's less dating success for them, but I forget actually. Black Pill is harmful. He didn't deny a single claim that I made there. He basically said that yes, Black Pill is largely fatalist, and there are a lot of fatalistic elements to it. And if he were in that position, he would give up. So the problem with that is that it creates it's a massive risk factor for depression, which causes pessimism, low self-esteem, social isolation, coping strategies that lead to more depression, more anxiety, and it basically eventually will lead to suicide if left unchecked. And it creates a state of learned helplessness that reinforces that. And then also, it leads to fucking excessive porn use, because just because you've said that you don't want to date women doesn't mean that your desire for women goes away. So they turn to a shitty substitute, which is porn. And basically this creates another vicious cycle, more anxiety, more depression, more social isolation that kind of creates more shame, more self-esteem issues, more mental health issues. So it's just like this vicious cycle that starts with fatalism. And as I described, fatalism is proven scientifically to lead to depression. It decreases your self-control, it decreases your resilience, and eventually leads to depression. And if you look at, I didn't want to bring this up because it is kind of like a airy-fairy idea, but if you look up like levels of consciousness, the absolute lowest rung on levels of consciousness is shame. And ultimately, a lot of this stuff is, I feel shame because of who I am. I watch porn and I'm ashamed of that. I'm ashamed of my sexuality. I'm ashamed of who I am. That is the literal most disempowering position to be in, not only for getting girls, but for enjoying your fucking life. And yeah, I had some other arguments I didn't really bring up, which is that it increases misogyny Like, there literally was a shooter in the UK who went by the name of Professor Waffles, and it was the worst mass shooting since 2010. And this guy was a black pill like person. He had black pill videos that he put out. So this mindset isn't just destructive to the host of it, it's destructive to other people in society, men and women. It encourages resentment and destructive behavior. And whenever you feel like you're in an environment where the status hierarchy is toxic, you need to get the fuck out. And a toxic status hierarchy looks like, what do I have to do to gain status in this group? So one of the things that in like woke ideology is like, be a bigger victim and you get more sympathy and you're higher status. Like, if you're like a victimized trans person, you're like a god, basically. And in black pill, if you are like, oh, I just have all these disadvantages, you complain more, you gain status. So look out for that and leave social and status environments that reward you for being just kind of like a loser. Okay. Black pill is a parasitic idea. I went through that. He had 0 arguments. Black pill shields itself from criticism and falsification. They're not grounded in empirical evidence and cannot be disproven. They offer like emotional appeal. So they exploit your insecurities, your self-doubt, other strong emotions to gain traction. They destroy the host. The black pill ideology literally destroys people, keeps people trapped in suffering for years. Much in the same way as biological parasites, parasitic ideas harm the individual. They harm your decision making. And you can see that with like, go find an argument or a comment under a black pill thing that isn't just like in an emotional aside. It makes you lack critical thinking. Like, if you literally go outside, you could see thousands of counterexamples. But because all you're focusing on is examples of people who can't accomplish it, your own shortcomings, other people's shortcomings, you're literally blinding yourself to it through your reticular activating system. And then spreadability. They're designed to spread rapidly. So he literally dropped all of those points. So that's a win for me in that one. Hijacks your RAS. I already talked about this. Your selective focus is being placed on things that are disempowering. He dropped that argument. And then the moral arguments, he just wanted me to breeze through it, so I won't count that against him. But yeah, the black pill is morally wrong. So by now, you know that the black pill ideology is wrong and it's harmful, but let's look at why it's morally wrong. So from a consequentialist ethics standpoint, the black pill is morally wrong. And this standpoint is basically, you want the maximum good and the minimum harm. So you want the best of society. So if you can judge based on the outcomes, would you say that the black pill ideology bears good fruits? Because you can judge a philosophy by the fruits that it bears. So, and I would struggle to call it a philosophy. It's more of an ideology. But what are the fruits? If you guys want to post in the comments, and if you guys do any kind of like, if you just donate $1 or something, I'll put your comment on and answer questions. But yeah, if you think about that, if you were to take that black pill ideology, would you say it creates a net good in society or a net con? Net negative. So at a societal level, genetic determinism has in the past led to justify eugenics, has led to justify racism. And on a individual level, it basically makes you feel hopeless. So I've already gone into this. Then universalization. So this is Kantian ethics. So an action or philosophy is morally wrong if it cannot be universally applied without harm. So in the case of black pill, would universalizing rating people as numbers, would, universalizing fatalism, insecurity, pointing out people's flaws, hopelessness, lack of critical thinking, would all those things lead to a flourishing society, or would it lead to fucking societal collapse? It would lead to societal collapse. Like, if there's no babies, there's no society, there's no humanity. Yeah, and also I think another sub point of it kind of does strip people of their humanity by by hyper focusing on one area, which is like dating market value. It strips people of their humanity. And then virtue ethics. This is kind of like ancient Greek kind of stuff. So morality is about cultivating good character traits, virtues, and avoiding bad ones, and focusing on what kind of person one should strive to be. So there's an ought there, there's a duty. And when you think about it, in the lens of what I talked about before with the ancestry, if your ancestors were looking at you right now, would they be like, that's the kind of person that I'm glad I created? I created a person who gave up, who was hopeless. Fuck no, dude. They'd be like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Get the fuck up. So it's about cultivating good character traits. And Black Pill does not cultivate good character traits. It cultivates inaction, apathy. And then from Christian ethics, this is the part I didn't get to go into. This is the most influential book in human history on ethics. So I think it's fair to kind of critique it from the Word of God. So Black Pill promotes despair, but Christians are supposed to trust in God's plan for a better future. So there's Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, plans to give you hope and a future. So, and like, keep in mind, all these like very powerful things from religion are also powerful in and of themselves without the religion. So having hope for a compelling future makes you want to fucking be alive, dude. Being trapped in despair and thinking it's over for you does not help you in any way, shape, or form. It doesn't help you get girls, and it doesn't help you in your view of yourself and your own life, the emotions that you're feeling on a daily basis. You're literally like poking at the emotions again and again and again because they feel so common to you, they feel like home, but they're not helping you and leading you to a compelling future. Human dignity. Black Pill reduces people to physical traits and even numbers, while Christians affirm that all are made in God's image. So that's what I was saying before. Like, it strips you of your humanity. So God created mankind in his own image. Genesis 1:27. Redemption. Black Pill sees no change as possible, but God offers transformation. Therefore, if anyone is Christ, the new creation has come, the old has gone, the new is here. So, dude, like, I could pull up, let me just pull this up right now. So, transformations. I know a little bit about that. So, let me pull this up. So, yeah, I've helped over 1,100 clients destroy their anxiety, create abundant dating life. So, these are all videos, people getting success. All videos, all videos, all videos. Some people short, some people are fat, some people are attractive. It's humanity. There's a lot of different people. 5'4" Indian getting success. Arab guy, Asian guy. Boom. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of screenshots. You can assess people's philosophy and their ideology by the fruits that it brings. This is what my philosophy brings. People getting success, people being happy, people having transformations, people having breakthroughs, people living a fun life, people connecting with women, people having empowering relationships. And then conversely, let's go back to Black Pill in the ethics department. Black Pill leads to passivity, while Christians are called to work ardently. So what does God say? Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart as though you are working for the Lord, not for human masters. So whatever you do, put your fucking all into it. It's more fun that way in and of itself. That's what I'm going to get into later. But another thing that Christians do is encouragement and building others up. So when the prevailing ethical system that has led humanity for thousands of years says you should encourage and build people up, therefore encourage one another and build each other up, just as in fact you are doing. 1 Thessalonians 5:11. So if you're in the Black Pill, you're literally pointing at people's flaws, pointing at your own flaws, spreading negativity, criticizing looks, instead of lifting people up. So, yeah. So Black Pill basically fails there as well. And I wanted to go more about how Black Pill is essentially a nihilistic death cult. So as with all false and bad ideologies, they are morally reprehensible and they ultimately lead to ruin. So Black Pill ideology is essentially a nihilistic death cult that strips life of hope, meaning, and purpose. promoting despair and a belief in an inevitable failure. It denies personal agency, denies like the human spirit, the fact that you have personal agency, leading to emotional stagnation and self-destruction. By normalizing cynicism and passivity, it isolates people and discourages growth, action, and connection. Ultimately, it drains life of all its value and fuels societal and personal decay. And I think a huge thing here, I'm going to address this at the end as well, but you need to be solution-oriented, not problem-oriented. You get what you focus on, not what you want. You get what you focus on. And another, I missed this point before. I'm going to write it out now. I'm going to make a video on this eventually, like a highly produced video. But another key to a bad status environment is that if the leader of that status environment doesn't have the results that the people in that status environment want, you're in a toxic status environment. You're in a place where you're basically being led to like despair. So if you look at a lot of these black pill people, do they have the results that you want? Do you want to be a critical person who doesn't have tremendous dating results? If you want that, go for it. But I imagine that most people don't want that. Yeah. And most ethical systems, what they all share is a reduction of suffering. And suffering is a state that you create. It's not an experience that you have. Suffering is created in the mind. You can feel pain, you can feel discouragement, you can feel some of those things, but when you amplify it and you focus on it so intensely that you lose all solution orientation and you only focus about what you lack and you only focus about why you're not good enough, you only focus about what other people have and the injustices and the frustration of that, you just lead yourself to poking those same emotional buttons again and again and again, which leads you down the negative spiral. And that needs to stop. So my fourth contention, which I didn't get to get into, is successful dating requires a holistic strategy. So first of all, I wanted to be objective when I was starting out. Evolutionary and psychological foundations. If you look at David Buss's Evolutionary Psychology, there are 6 adaptive problems that women are solving for. There are no simple solutions to what women look for in a mate. Okay? There's no one size, just do this, just be this. If you want to have a fulfilling long-term relationship, no matter who you are, from the most attractive to the least attractive, you have to cultivate an overall holistic dating strategy where you do all these things. So you're able to, from an evolutionary standpoint, you're a mate that's able to invest, willing to invest, be able to protect her, show good parenting skills, be compatible, be healthy. And if you wanted my take on that, there's a lot more that goes into it in terms of social skills and how you can optimize your life. My second point is that game and self-development have intrinsic value. So a lot of the things that I see online are, oh, just give up because, it's not worth it. Self-development doesn't work and it's not going to save you, blah, blah, blah. Who gives a fuck? It's amazing in and of itself. Is working on your health hurting you in any way? Is me getting better sleep, eating better foods, lifting weights, playing sports, walking, getting out in the sun? You can see I got a bit of a sunburn now. It's a little bit too much. But are all these things hurting me or making my life better in and of themselves without even the idea of girls on the table? They're fucking helping you, dude. And your health and your aesthetics are like 80% correlated. If you're extremely healthy, you're going to be more attractive. And most people, this is a point that I didn't get to get into, unfortunately, most people have not maxed out their genetic capacity for physical attraction. Said basically simply, most people have not maxed out their looks at all. You look around society, what do you see? Fat, acne. Like, people don't even know that you're not supposed to eat grains and beans, and they fuck up your stomach and they give you acne. Like, people don't get that acne is hormonal in cause. But yeah, if you max out your health, you're going to max out your looks, and that could increase your attractiveness by 1 to 2 points. If you look at someone who's scrawny, smokes cigarettes, drinks, and just alcohol. Look at someone who's alcoholic. Look at them 2 years later not having a drink. Skin's glowing. They look happier. They look better. The bloating's gone. Just one thing. Do you think like other things can make a difference? Lifting weights, etc. So yeah, the next point, quitting destructive habits like porn, social media scrolling, binge watching. This makes your brain work better and improves your focus. The reason why I was able to go such in depth in this debate, because I was able to fucking focus, dude. If I was like addicted to jerking off, watching porn, scrolling on TikTok, like fucking my brain up, do you think I would be able to go this deep? No. So quitting destructive habits are good for you. Learning game. If I'm just learning game, is that going to improve my life in other areas? If I improve my social skills with women, is that going to improve my life in general? Fuck yeah, dude. It's going to improve your relationship with your family, your relationship with your friends, your relationship with people in general, and also your relationship with yourself. Because by understanding the psychology of others, you start to understand more of the psychology of yourself. Damn, that's a really good point. I should write that down. Yourself by understanding the psychology of others. Spitting some fire, dog. All right. And then learning game also helps your emotional intelligence, your assertiveness, your leadership, your establishment of boundaries. Does doing introspection help you? It might be the most powerful thing out of all of these. By doing introspection, meditating, doing shadow work, any kind of therapy or self-development events, that stuff will actually help you in and of yourself, even in and of itself. Like, wouldn't it be better to have a better relationship with yourself where you don't beat yourself up? You don't feel like you're not good enough. Wouldn't that be nice? So my point is that game and self-development have intrinsic value. And if you want to take it even further, using women as a motivator accelerates that process and makes it like self-development on steroids. Like, game is literally self-development on steroids. Cool. My next point is that if you're lacking in looks, if you're lacking in your genetic looks, create a compelling offer. So in Alex Hormozi's book, $100 Million Offers, he talks about what are the keys of a great offer. And if you were to apply this to, your dating life, it would be maxing out all the stats that you can. So max out your game, max out all the parts of your SMV, not just your looks. Max out your looks. You can max out your career and your purpose. You can also max out how internally fulfilled and grateful and awesome you feel on a day-to-day basis. Because there's I really love this idea of the 4 levels of communication. It's what you say, how you say it, the intent behind what you're saying, and then how you feel about yourself. So if you feel like you're a shitty person, if you feel like you don't have intrinsic value and that you're awesome and that, you're a great person, it leads to bad outcomes. And even like what Waffles brought up, he brought up his question, do you want me to stay and keep talking to you, or do you want me to go? The reason why it leads to that is because if you internally don't understand that you're a person of value and that women should generally be attracted to you, then you leave it up to her, and it creates bad suboptimal game strategies as well. Okay. Next one is evidence from immersive psychosocial training in CBT. Whoops. Let me make sure I'm still on. All right. Yeah. So I'll leave that for my video. But the other thing I already kind of touched on is that real world proof transformations happen. Like, the fact that there's 534 million ugly people on planet Earth shows that ugly people can reproduce. You'd have to be a fucking idiot or literally into that parasitic idea to not see that. 500 million people exist that are ugly. And if looks are genetically determined, which they are 85%, then they had ugly parents that reproduced. So what the fuck did those guys do? Did they just slipped into some pussy? No, dude. They made it work. They found a solution. Some solutions, maybe they're not the prettiest. Maybe it's like you said, maxing out other areas of your life. Maybe it's like becoming an expert in some field. Maybe it's maxing out your status. Maybe it's like just having insane social skills and being like the coolest person to be around. Like, you have to find a way. And like, if you want to succeed in this, which ultimately, like I defined, failure is not great. If you choose or don't choose, and if you don't if you just are not having sex and you're decided to be celibate, even that destroys your happiness. You need human connection and intimacy. This is not a crazy point. This is not my opinion. You need that. Okay. I also wanted to share some like extreme examples, and I wanted to share them from the framework of an A and B split test. So most of the people I'm going to show you, had they, here, let me pull this up. The people I'm going to show you, had they found black pill ideology, they and got enraptured in it, they would essentially just have died off, being, very unhappy. And when I show this, I don't want you guys to, let me find it first. Okay. When I show this, I don't want you guys to like, whatever. I'm just gonna show it. So first one we got here. You guys don't have it that bad, okay? Let me put this on my big monitor over here. All right. So this is Sean Stevenson. He's 2 feet 8 inches tall. He was born deformed with bone issues, and this was his wife. So this is a woman that he had, a relationship with, and that gave his life meaning. And one of the most profound things that this guy ever said, right before he died, he was in the hospital dying of, I think he had like some fucking concussion or something that hurt him or something. But as he was laying there dying, he said, "This is happening for me, not to me." Let that sink in. Even this deformed guy dying in the hospital at the age of 40 from a concussion said, "This is happening for me, not to me. I refuse to be a victim. I refuse to be a victim. I refuse to give in to despair and depression." Powerful. The next one, and this is that girl. Like, next one, this guy, Nick Vujicic, I don't know what his name is. No limbs. That's his wife. No limbs. What if he found black pill early on? "Hey bro, it's over for you. You don't have any limbs." Nah, I'm just gonna disregard that ideology. I'm gonna get a wife instead. Like, just, I love the human spirit. Like, he's literally like defying that. He's like, "Nah, I reject your ideology, and instead I substitute my own. I'm good. I don't need to give into the depression. It sounds like a lot of work. Sounds like it's too much. I just would rather have a girlfriend, to be honest." Like, so use these as an example, bro. Like this guy, Sean Stevenson, Nick Vujicic. And if they can do it and they're essentially deformed 2 feet 8 inches, you're unable to, your situation is worse. You're 2 feet 7 inches. Cool. All right. And I just checked the chat and I saw something on coping. So I found that this is so fascinating. In my research of this, the actual coping mechanisms, do you guys know what they are? So the actual coping mechanisms are used by people who fucking give up. Check this shit out. All right, boom. So black pill causes passive coping. So coping as a word, if you're going to use the dictionary definition and the scientific definition, is it's basically avoiding problems instead of fixing them. So what people do when they're coping with things is they avoid problems instead of fixing them. So what does black pill do? Because they believe that they can't change anything, they cope. So the 4 parts of coping: rumination, isolation, denial, and cynicism. Rumination, black pill obsesses over their flaws. Isolation, they avoid dating because they assume they'll fail. Denial, they refuse to try therapy or self-development, believing it won't work, and they reject outside opinions. Cynicism, they mask emotional pain with humor or sarcasm as a way to deflect feelings, right? And this isn't like crazy ideas. This is literally psychological science. So the subconscious mind manifests repressed desires, and that's why they come out in these ways. Okay, what else have I not got into? So we talked about what a parasitic idea is. A beneficial idea, so an idea that's good, is these qualities: grounded in evidence and reason. They're adaptive for individuals and society. Basically, that means that they encourage good behaviors and promote survival, reproduction, quality of life. They are open to criticism and refinement. They promote agency and empowerment, and they spread through utility. So by those metrics, what I'm teaching, the holistic dating strategy of like using a well-rounded strategic approach, is a beneficial idea. It's grounded in evidence and reason. Psychology, evolutionary psychology, biology, all show that women choose multiple things in a mate. They are evaluating a multitude of factors. It's adaptive for individuals and society. If no one fucks, there's no society. And it also creates less frustration, hostility toward others, and more connection, community. Open to criticism and refinement. Dude, show me where I'm wrong. I will adapt. If I am at odds with reality, I will adapt. My course that I have, gametransformation.com, is, see if I can put a banner, right? Fuck, no, I can't. But my course talks about a wide range of things. My biggest frustration when I look at other dating coaches and channels was that they're only focused on one thing. It's just your online game. It's just your inner game. It's just your blah, blah, blah. No, it's not only one thing. If you're too simplistic and you're overly reductionist, you're fucking wrong. This is a complex field. Okay. You're not expecting to find simple solutions. So yeah, show me where I'm wrong and I will adapt. I would love that. It would literally make my coaching better. If you can find me a way to more quickly get my clients results, I will adapt. I'm doing everything I possibly can to get these guys results, focusing on the inner work, focusing on the game, focusing on upgrading their aesthetics and their health. Like even down to having air filters and water filters in your house can improve your health. I could get into that for 30 minutes. It's not worth it for this debate. Okay. They promote agency and empowerment. You can use the right strategy, embrace reality, and you can get results. There's 434 million ugly people in the world for a reason. They found a way. Spread through positivity and utility. Like, yeah, this stuff fucking works. Thousands of examples of it. You go to my website and see all the client testimonials. People are getting results. Cool. Yeah, what is the only other section? I was going to make a sub point about mate choice copying. Women are 2.7 times more likely to choose a male if they observed another female choosing him. Like, I can tell you this from experience. When I've had girlfriends that I go out and meet girls with, it definitely helps. Like, it's one of the easiest sells. Cool. And my last section, this is the last thing I'll say in this whole thing, and it might be the most important. So listen up. So basically how to save someone in this type of thinking. So the first thing is I want you guys to visualize. If any of you have these ideologies, I want you to visualize this. So I want you to feel the pain and frustration in your current situation right now. Whatever emotions come up from you, don't judge them, just allow them. If it's frustration or anger, despair, depression, feeling of injustice, I want you to let that come up for you. And now I want you to think 10 years down the line. I want you to visualize how your life will be if you continue in the same patterns, pushing those emotional buttons, giving into despair, fatalism. How will you feel if you let another decade go by without pursuing love and connection? How will that feel? And I want you to double that pain. What would you give to come back to this very moment, to take action, to work toward a better life, a happier life, a life of growth and forward progression where you have a compelling future? We've already wasted enough time in our lives. The time for action is now. First, understand the pain that you're coming from and realize that you don't want more of that in your life. The second thing is, with any kind of like cult-like ideology, like if you're buying into something that's false, you're going to feel some kind of self-attack from that. It's going to be hard to let go of. It's felt like home, and it can be very tough to forgive yourself for falling into these dogmatic ideologies. But keep in mind that pretty much everyone is susceptible to them. And when you're in a disempowered state, when you're depressed, when you're unhealthy, you are more susceptible to falling into these ideas. So it's important to start from a place of self-compassion. Be compassionate toward yourself. You made a mistake. It's okay. Forgive yourself. We all make mistakes. You're human. The next is you want to shift your focus and your questions. So like I said before, suffering is a state we create when we focus on what we lack, when we feel helpless, or when we obsess about things that we can't control. Suffering comes from living in a mindset of fear or scarcity. And the way to shift is to focus on gratitude, growth, and contribution. Gratitude. What am I grateful for? What am I lucky to have in my own body right now? Growth. How can I improve? How can I get better? Not from a place of lack and that you're not enough, but hey, you're awesome as you are. How can you be more awesome? That's the mindset you want to have. And contribution. How can you give to other people? How can you make other people feel better? The reason for that is because when you focus on yourself, you always get suffering. When you focus on yourself, it's all about me and my flaws, and I'm never enough. You're going to get suffering. When you focus on contributing to other people, bringing a good vibe, helping people out. For my ultimate community this year for Christmas, I got every single person at the Christmas party an ultimate Frisbee disc. Contributing. It feels good. And it also fosters human connection. Like you're going to have more relationships. You're going to have more community. And by changing your perspective and taking purposeful action, you can transform that suffering into a source of strength and growth. Aligning your values with higher values, aligning your life with higher values and purpose. This is basically like cognitive behavioral therapy that you do on yourself. So when I said shift your focus and your questions, the question is, what is the recurring question that is going through your mind again and again and again? What is that question you ask yourself when you feel despair? And I want you guys, if you're listening to this, get something out of it. Write it down. What's that recurring question? Or put it in the chat. What's that recurring question that comes to your mind every time rejection happens? Anytime someone lets you down. Anytime you get frustrated. And speaking from me personally, it was, when am I going to be enough? And then I later changed that to, how can I become better? But the problem with how can I become better is it assumes that I'm not enough right now. So I even changed that even further. And now the recurring question that I ask in my mind is, how can I become even better so that I can give even more? It's not about me, and it never was. How can I become even better so that I can give even more? So if you shift your questions, you shift your focus. And if you shift your focus, you literally change the meaning of your life and the emotions that you feel on a day-to-day basis. So be aware of these questions. I was going to bring this up, but he dipped. There was some Reddit post he made like 8 years ago. Why do girls not like ginger guys? So what does that question assume? Girls don't like ginger guys. What if instead he asked, how can I appreciate who I am even more? How can I appreciate this literal body that I am in for my entire life? How can I view my body as like a partner in my life? But if you ask your brain shitty questions, you get shitty answers. So very, very important thing is to ask change the question that you're asking yourself. All right. Next, I would advise you guys to unfollow every black pill content creator and leave every black pill and looks max group. A very good way to change your life is to add friction to the things that are causing you harm. It's a concept from Atomic Habits. So I'm going to take my AirPods out. This is a concept from Atomic Habits. Basically, just add more friction. If you have to like search something up, you're going to look at it less than if it's just, on your feed constantly, getting notifications. Personal agency. So the first place to start for personal agency, like the fact that you have control of yourself, is active fatalism. So everyone in Black Pill, they have like passive fatalism, like it's over for me, there's nothing I can do. Active fatalism is basically like saying your future may be predestined, but you have to combine it with personal agency to achieve it. And that actually decreases your depression, funny enough. I would just say, if you feel like it, skip that whole step altogether and just be like, I have personal agency. I control my reality. I can build who I am. Cool. Yeah, the next thing, solutions focused instead of problem focused. Again, what you focus on, you get. Instead, oh man, fuck, there's such a great quote on this. I wonder if I have it. It's basically like it's about if you the man who thinks he won't accomplish something, but like the man, oh man, there's such a good quote for this. I don't know if I'll be able to find it in time. But yeah, basically when I was learning game, I said, I will get good at this no matter what. I will get good at this no matter what. There's no room for uncertainty there. I am certain I will get good at this no matter what. I don't care if it's difficult. I don't care if I go through pain. I don't care if my belief system gets, harmed. I don't care if I have to adopt things and learn things and try things and experiment and deal with social pressure and rejection. I don't give a fuck, dude. I'm getting good at this no matter what. That's what a man does. Cool. Next one. You got to increase your self-relatedness. This is all stuff I'm going to put in that final video. And then what Gad Sad would say is you have to combat these mind pathogens, these like parasitic ideas, with beneficial ideas. So you have to restore reason and truth. And I got to be honest with you guys. A lot of you guys, it's very difficult because your attention span and focus has been depleted to such an extent that you can't even like see outside of certain biases. Like you don't even know what confirmation bias is. You don't even know like logical fallacies. So you're going to be caught in all these loopholes that are just like keeping you trapped. Next thing is cognitive behavioral therapy. Combining mind pathogens. Find ideologies that adapt. Find ideologies that adapt to new information. They're based on empirical evidence, science, reason. Find beneficial ideas like that I discussed before. Cognitive behavioral therapy. I'm going to link a CBT guide when I finally do my video on this. But do cognitive behavioral therapy. Change the thoughts that are going through your head step by step. When I was suicidally depressed, dude, you know what I did? I said, if I didn't even know about cognitive behavioral therapy. I just thought, hey, if I'm like 1% less depressed every day I have 1% more positive thoughts every single day, I'll probably eventually have more and more positive thoughts. So that's what I did. I just started observing my thoughts when I have a negative thought, self-defeating thought, and then I'd say, how can I change that? How can I flip that into a more empowering idea? And this is before I even knew about self-development or anything. But yeah, here's my closing statement. The black pill is objectively false. It's objectively false based on evolutionary psychology, biology, history, and then axiomatically, like on its face, there are fucking ugly people in the world. Where the fuck did they come from? Ugly people obviously reproduce. Average people reproduce. Attractive people reproduce. Chads reproduce. So it's objectively wrong, and it ignores the multidimensional reality of attraction. Number 2, the black pill is harmful. It breeds hopelessness, depression, suicide, violence, and porn addiction. Number 3, the black pill is morally wrong and reprehensible. because it fosters despair, undermines human dignity, rejects personal growth, and promotes harm to individuals and society. And it betrays the legacy of those who fought to give you life. Number 4, successful dating requires a holistic strategy. So empirical data and real world examples show that looks matter some, but strategy, confidence, social skills, emotional skills, did I say that right? Emotional health, status, and many behavioral cues and consistent effort matter more. And if you look at my course goes into all of those. It goes into how are you relating to yourself? What strategies are you using? Have you optimized your health and aesthetics? Like all the areas that you could get into for improving yourself as a man and improving your dating results, I cover because I understand it's a holistic strategy. There are no simple answers when it comes to dating. Let me find that quote again. Simple answers. Such a baller quote. Choosing a mate is a complex task, and so we do not expect to find simple answers to what women want. David Buss, Evolutionary Psychology. He's the most cited psychologist in human history next to Freud. Cool. And then number 5, take steps to save yourself. If you're a black pillar, take steps to save yourself. This ideology wants to ruin you. It is essentially like a death cult. It's an energy parasite that's inside you, driving you down a negative spiral to failure, depression, and suicide. Recognize that. I've laid out from the point of view, evolutionary psychology, biology, objectively, it is false. Not my opinion. Not, in my experience, I've seen. No, objectively, it is false. Evolutionary biology, psychology, history. So take steps to save yourself and forgive yourself for falling into this trap. It's okay. So my final word, if you're black pill, best antidote, step outside that echo chamber, solve the emotional reasons which are actually the cause of that. Not how you interpreted those experiences that you've been in and led to the echo chamber, but what are the emotions that are driving this lack of this despair, and what are the ways that you relate to yourself that are causing that? What are the emotional needs that are unfulfilled? So yeah, step outside the echo chamber, look at success stories, start taking action. Taking action in and of itself is a good thing. It's fun. Dude, lifting weights, it's fun. Playing sports, it's fun. Getting outside in the sun is fun. You can improve your aesthetics. It's fun. It's interesting. It's an interesting thing to go on. You learn about science. You learn about people's experiences. You learn about nutrition. It's an interesting journey to go on. If you go into the journey of learning game, improve your social skills, you understand so much more about psychology and people and how to relate to people and how business works and how everything works. Yeah, because reality just proves that improvement is not just possible, but it's probable when you just commit to it. So yeah, thanks for you guys coming to this debate. Unfortunately, Wheat Waffles bounced out at 2 hours in because he's in Europe and he got a little tired, but yeah. So I'm curious what questions you guys have. If you guys go to my channel, Austen Summers, drop me like $1. I'm going to answer all the questions that come in first that are money. Got to prioritize somehow. There's like fucking thousands of stuff in the chat here. Thousands of comments. Big ups, Austen. You are a force for good. Bless. So what's up, bro? Thanks for the $2 Canadian. All right, we got Ted11. Good debate. In my opinion, answer is in the middle. Game works provided there is attraction. Kind of like how sales skills help if a need pain exists. Yeah, I would more or less agree with that, although I believe that game is partially what is attractive about a man. And it is what partially creates that attraction. There's a thing called, girls talk about this, hot until he opens his mouth. So what does that mean? His words are decreasing her attraction for him. So that means that the things that he's saying, his strategy, his game, his verbals are decreasing attraction. And conversely, if you go in and there's moderate attraction on the open, but you keep talking and you keep talking and she sees all these different attraction switches get flipped, that volume knob of attraction gets higher and higher and higher because you're showing that you're a leader. You're showing that you're a sexual authority. You're showing that you're just a cool, fun guy to hang out with who has an abundant mindset. Like that stuff increases attraction. And to dispute that literally goes in the face of not only millions of examples of society, but it flies in the face of like all the biology and evolutionary psychology stuff that I brought up before. So yeah, and I like bad ideas. This is the reason I did this debate and I did want to research it. Bad ideas, I'm not going to sit passively by while bad ideas are spread in many cases by a 23-year-old with almost no dating results. Like if you frame it like that, it doesn't really make sense. I was very respectful during the debate and I obviously just argued like through logics and not attacking, but you can tell a lot about an ideology based on who's writing it and who's purporting it, right? So like even communism, it's like the writer's living in his mom's basement. If you look at and then Black Pill, like are these people the people that are getting great results in their life? Are these people even making points that are logical? In many cases, no. Okay, let's take some more questions. Drop some preguntas in the chat. But I am going to go soon. I actually do have to meet up with my girlfriend. But yeah, it's kind of an easy debate to win against Black Pill. Hold on, let me dog it. Come. Okay. Does anyone have any questions dating related? I think I probably have like 30 minutes. Dude, I should take this live stream and then use it for my video. Yeah, and it's so funny, like this copium thing and coping. Like, if you actually understand what coping is giving up. Coping is rumination. Coping is cynicism. I've addressed this. Oh, also a part of my like frustration with this whole idea is back in the day, like people, when they'd comment on my channel, 2014, 2015, they'd be like, oh, bro, this is sick. Like, oh, that's so funny. I want to try that out. Oh, cool. I can't wait to go out and try this. And then over time, these parasitic ideas have taken over people's minds. And many of my comments are like, bro, that only works because you're a fucking Chad. Or like literally, let me see if I can find this comment. Oh my God, this comment is hilarious. I might have to pull it up on my YouTube directly. But you guys saw that video I did, picking up girls using their own advice. Let me see if I can find this. Here we go. This video only works because you're good looking. It should be entitled How to Pick Up Girls If You Are a Model. What? Like this ideology, the Black Pill ideology, makes you, it like deprives you so much of your critical thinking faculties that A guy is saying that the only reason women are receptive to me is because I'm a model. What? Have you read Levels of Energy? Are you is that I haven't read that book, but I think, are you talking about like levels of like consciousness? I was writing up that for this debate, like as another contention, but then I was like, while I do believe that it's true, it's not really like objective, you know? Like the levels of consciousness, like the lowest one is shame. Yeah, shame, guilt, apathy, grief, fear, desire, anger, pride, courage, neutrality, willingness, acceptance, reason, love, joy, peace, enlightenment. That's like from bottom to top. Cool. All right, guys, post in the chat. Who do you guys think won this debate? It's so cool too how like I perfectly describe the psychological process keeping people stuck, and then there's literally people commenting that are literally stuck in that psychological process. And I probably shouldn't be like shaming them for being, to be fair, it's kind of dumb, but because it's not the comments and things that they're making are not even coming from a place of logic. They're coming from an emotional wound, which I literally do feel compassion for people in that. Like, dude, everyone has insecurities. It's like it's painful, right? But you know, there's things that you can do. You can work on things, you can accept things, you can change your emotions, your meaning, what you focus on, the actions you take. And like, yeah, you can get to a higher place of consciousness, a higher state. And you don't have to be stuck in anxiety and depression and despair for your life. Like, it's not fun. Like, it does not benefit you to be stuck in that position. Okay. You won easily. I'll take a screenshot, send it to my girlfriend. Keep the winning streak up. Boom. This is my other win this week. Boom. Ultimate Frisbee championship with like 15 teams. Won first place, Open Division champs. It's my gayest flex, apparently. It's so funny. Like people that come to play Ultimate Frisbee, they're like, "Holy fuck, dude! This is so much more running than, you know, basketball or football or whatever." And they get like smoked around. It literally is like you have to be like, it's pure athleticism in a lot of ways. You have to sprint, run, jump, and like you're competing for like literally inches. Like you're trying to like grab a disc that's like maybe 1 inch away, and someone could, you know, hit it out of your hands or whatever. It's like, it's pretty fun. Anyway, obviously a lot of sports are cool, blah, blah, blah. Okay. And I think some people are kind of confused. I'm not saying that looks are not important. Like, looks are important. And, you know, they play a role, but it's not the entire role. And like, I don't need to go back into it. Anyone who's watched the debate has seen the tons and tons and tons of proof that I have demonstrated from a variety of fields and just fucking logic. So, bum ba bum bum bum. And now we're getting game beats looks. Looks beats. Okay. Same problem. When you lack critical thinking skills, you get stuck in these dumb things. No one's saying it's only looks. No, even the fucking Wheat Waffles guy doesn't say it's only looks. I'm not saying it's only game. Like, you guys don't understand what I do. I'm the person who gets people dating results. I'm pragmatic. Okay. I'm like a personal trainer. Someone's like, "Hey bro, I want to put on 10 pounds of muscle." I'm like, "Okay, do this, 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 this. Let's have you start identifying as a healthy person. I want you to make these lifestyle choices. Here's your nutrition. I'm going to follow up with you. I'm going to set up systems for accountability and success. That's what I do, but applied to game. So I will give you whatever you need to succeed, right? I'm going to give you a game framework. I'm going to give you, here's the things you need to fix in terms of your aesthetics. You guys have seen, if you follow me on Instagram, you've seen me like post students transformations just like from going shopping. Like some students come, they have like insanely bad haircuts and style. They look like they're homeless. You put them into a good outfit, a good haircut, they literally like instantly get an extra 1 to 2 points of a boost just in that. Cool. All right. Doesn't look like any more questions. All right, we got one. One person said Wheat Waffles won. So I want you to say, Corellian, based on the entire debate and all the dropped arguments, what arguments did I lose on, and what was the exact reason that I didn't address? So yeah, if you think you won, tell me why. Because I'm actually curious. Why am I not out right now? See, now this is a good question. So yeah, you should go out. Let me see. Yay. I think one other point I wanted to make was that, like, had I personally found the black pill back in the day, not knowing what I know, I haven't, back then I hadn't read hundreds of books. I hadn't slept with hundreds of girls. I hadn't, I didn't understand psychology and therapy and self-development. I was more susceptible to these ideas, and these ideas had the potential to destroy my life. So I'm very glad and fortunate that I didn't find them. And it was so much better back in the day too, because so much of the content was just so much more empowering and action oriented. Michelle, do I have to bounce off?
Yeah, Alex wants me to go ahead and cut the live.
Oh, okay. All right. Thanks for coming on, guys. Cool. Thanks for talking,
awesome.
everyone. And I'm gonna have like all these ideas that I brought up in this debate. I'm gonna have a fully polished video that comes out on my channel. It's gonna be maybe an hour and a half long. Has like tons of examples, studies linked, all that kind of shit. So if you guys are looking forward to that, check my channel again. Austen Summers. Thanks for having me, Michelle. You're the best moderator in the game. And
I was barely
see you
here.
guys later.
Thank you, though. Bye.
Peace.